2023 Tundra. Toyota, let's go places.
Expect more. KSAT 12.
It's the Bob Mills Veterans Day Salute. Come in the store and nominate a veteran to win a new recliner. 10 veterans will win. And I'll be in the store Saturday to thank you for your service and shake your hand. From all of us at Bob Mills Furniture.
The Internet of Things is evolving, creating the Internet of You. And Spectrum, America's leading internet provider, is bringing you seamless connectivity across all your devices. Introducing Spectrum One, Spectrum Internet with speeds of 300 megabits, advanced Wi-Fi, and Spectrum Mobile Unlimited, all for just $49.99 a month. Call 833-673-4999. Spectrum Internet delivers the fastest speeds in the nation for smoother surfing, streaming, gaming, and more. Advanced Wi-Fi provides enhanced security and privacy that automatically blocks threats to protect all of your devices. And Spectrum Mobile gives you unlimited talk, text, and data with reliable nationwide 5G coast to coast. Switch now. Call 833-673-4999. At Spectrum, it's not just about connecting things. It's about connecting you. Get it all with Spectrum One, Spectrum Internet, advanced Wi-Fi, and one line of Spectrum Mobile Unlimited for $49.99 a month. Call 833-673-4999 or visit a Spectrum store today.
Soak in the holiday spirit during SeaWorld San Antonio's Christmas celebration, where the wonders of the sea meet the joy of Christmas. Tickets as low as $49.99.
It's the Bob Mills Veterans Day Salute. Come in the store and nominate a veteran to win a new recliner. 10 veterans will win. And I'll be in the store Saturday to thank you for your service and shake your hand. From all of us at Bob Mills Furniture.
If you've been in a car, truck wreck, call, text, or message me at 444-4444. There's only one number to remember, and that's 4.
10th year that we have been covering elections in a live stream form here on KSAT and KSAT.com. And so we're going to kick off the live stream a little early, actually on air and online with the last half hour of this newscast. And we have the power panel.
We do. And no karaoke, as what these mics may suggest. We're missing a little bit of our power. We have one panelist who has gone rogue. But we want to introduce who is here. We have Kevin Wolff, longtime county commissioner, former city council member, Molly Cox, former CEO of SA 2020, policy consultant, and fashionably late, Demonte Alexander,
always on time,
political consultant. Thank you all for being here now.
Of course. Absolutely.
All right, so Kevin, we'll start with you. Big race that you're watching, and any bold prediction you want to make.
Okay, so yes, I'm actually watching two. One, my old Precinct 3 seat between Grant Moody and Susan Corbell. I do believe Grant will take that seat based on looking at how the district is structured. And then, of course, with the county judge, a.k.a. Dad, Nelson Wolff, this being his last term, there will be a change. And looking at things right now, I have to kind of give the edge to Peter Sakai.
Okay. Molly?
Wait, hold up. Nelson Wolff is your dad?
I know. Who knew?
Yeah. I know. Hate to break it to you.
Yeah, breaking news.
I know. Yeah.
Hat gave it away.
Yeah, that's what
it was. I don't think there's really any big races tonight, really, like the balance of our democracy or anything that we need to think about.
Right.
Really.
Insurrections.
It's up and down, right? We're looking at from governor all the way to, we've got school bonds that are happening locally as well, and I think like there were some 100 types of things that you could type into, so I think up and down, I'm like the one with the least amount. I'm never like, I know exactly the race. I like all the races because I'm a nerd.
Yes.
And that's why you're here.
Thank you.
All right, Demonte, for you, what are you keeping an eye on?
I think what's going to be important is to watch the Attorney General's race, but also the DA's race. I think that's probably going to be the closest race between LaHood and Joe Gonzales. I mean, we have abortion on the ballot, right? And so I think it's going to be interesting to see what the voters choose when it comes to those races.
All right, I want to ask you guys about the governor's race. I moderated the debate between Beto and Governor Abbott in Edinburgh. A lot of money spent on this race. I mean, it was a Texas debate that was trending nationally. Let's go in reverse order. I'll start with you, DeMonte. Will it be close tonight between Beto and Governor Abbott?
I'm going to say no, because we're in Texas.
Okay. Now, when you say no, 10 points or more?
That's about right. I'll say about 10. That's a good point. I think 10 to 12.
Okay. Yeah. Molly?
I'm going to say it's going to be so close. Just to be opposite.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean,
I appreciate
I'm
that.
taking a stand.
Yeah.
Well, I think we learned from, and this may be going back, is sometimes we live in these bubbles in our own communities, right? We're in a blue county, and what really, when Hillary lost, right? Everybody thought Hillary would just blow Trump out of the water, and then everybody was crying the next day.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I think we feel like we got to step out of our own community bubble and really kind of look at the bigger picture here and what we're talking about, a statewide race here, right? So that's just my take on it.
Yeah.
Abbott wins. It'll be single digits. The rural counties will carry him because the urban counties are going to go blue.
And that seems to be what his strategy switched to at a certain point. Is like he couldn't count on suburban Texas cities anymore. He had to go to some of the rural areas, which is perhaps why he's in McAllen tonight.
Yeah, and when you look at the state numbers of who's voted an early vote, Democrat versus Republican, you see Republicans statewide about 10 percentage points greater than Democrats. However, when you look to our own county here, a blue county, you see the exact opposite of that. You've got Democrats outvoting Republicans by about 10 points.
There are a lot of big races tonight to watch, but I don't know if there are any expected surprises. I mean, is there anything you think is not a foregone conclusion?
You know, it'll be interesting to see what happens along the border. There's been a lot of talk about, you know, you're going to see more of a Republican wave along the border than maybe we expected. And there's going to be some races down there. Henry Cuellar is going to have a race in his hands down there. So it'll, you know, I think there may be some, you know, potential surprises there. But to your point, Myra, in the grander scheme of things, I think things are going to fall out the way everybody's sort of thinking. Again, though, to DeMonte, I knew, just like everybody else knew, that Hillary Clinton was going to be elected president. And at 9 o'clock that night, everybody was like, holy cow, how did this happen? So, you know, my faith in polls and numbers has been greatly diminished since that time.
Yeah.
But also, you just look at what's on the table right now. A governor's in the Valley, in South Texas, right? Which typically you would say that's a minority community, low income. You would think those are more blue communities, blue votes, right?
Yeah.
And so it could be, hey, we need to do better in this area, or hey, let's go down and poke them a little bit, right? So.
All right, we gotta wrap up our power here. Don't go anywhere, DeMonte. try to hang out for a little bit. Okay.
I'm here all night.
Or at least have some sort of tracker so we can.
We'll be right back.
I had to get some makeup, man.
We'll get DeMonte camp.
If you've been in a car truck wreck, call me at 444-4444. That's right, there's only one number to remember, and that's 4.
Create your perfect room for relaxing, entertaining, and more with patio enclosures. Right now, get 25% off your sunroom. Plus, enjoy exceptional financing. Call today. Patio enclosures.
4,500 dealer bonus cash and 0 payments till 2023. Only America's #1 Mitsubishi dealer offers a deal that good. Buy any new Mission Mitsubishi today and get an extra 4,500 dealer bonus cash. Trade or no trade, running or not, an extra 4,500 bonus cash for your down payment. Put it toward negative equity or keep the cash. 4,500 dealer bonus cash for everyone who buys any new Mitsubishi from Mission Mitsubishi on San Pedro, just outside of Loop 410.
Don't miss the inaugural All-American Cup Team Tennis Tournament, presented by Thomas J. Henry at the Freeman Coliseum in San Antonio, Texas, November 11 through 13. The All-American Cup features 10 top men's U.S. players competing on 2 teams, East versus West, each captained by the greatest tennis doubles team of all time, Mike and Bob Bryan. You don't want to miss this. Brother versus brother, East versus West, best versus best. Tickets on sale now at allamericantenniscup.com.
KSAT's Weather Authority app, powered by AFFCU.
Create your perfect room for relaxing, entertaining, and more with patio enclosures. Right now, get 25% off your sunroom. Plus, enjoy exceptional financing. Call today. Patio enclosures.
Buy any precision tune-up, get one free. That includes a heating, air conditioning, water heater, or electrical panel tune-up. That's right, buy one tune-up, get one for free for only $69.
Now to Uvalde on this election day. The governor's race, a big priority for many fighting for changes to gun laws there. We're also following a local race for County Commissioner Precinct 2. Our Lee Waldman joins us live in Uvalde tonight. And Lee, in that County Commissioner's race, 3 write-in candidates are fighting to unseat a long-standing incumbent.
That's exactly right, Myra, including the father of Robb Elementary victim, Joaquin Castro. The tragedy at Robb inspiring at least 2 of those write-ins to run for office. Javier Castro and Diana Oviedo-Carew both tell me there are changes that need to be made in this community to protect children. That is part of the platform they're each running on. The other part centers around Mariano Vargas, the man currently in the seat. Vargas has held the position for over a decade. He's more widely known for the fact he was the acting interim Uvalde police chief on May 24th and was then placed on leave for his actions that day. Vargas did not respond to our multiple emails asking for an interview. Julio Valdez is the other write-in candidate for this race. He declined to speak. Now, aside from this local race, the families of the Robb victims have thrown their support behind gubernatorial candidate Beto O'Rourke because of his stance on gun reform changes. 1 week ago, they brought those calls to the governor's mansion in Austin.
You don't have to be a politician to know politics. It's an easy Google search. Find out who has your same beliefs. Everyone's beliefs are different, and I understand that. But find who has your beliefs and vote for them, and vote responsibly.
Right now in Texas, there is something that our legislators and our governors can do. They can raise the age limit to purchase assault rifles from 18 to 21. It's sensible. It's doable.
The families tell me they'll be watching these results as they come in very carefully, and they're going to be doing so as one family together. We'll be with them as those votes start coming in. Live in Uvalde, Lee Waldman, KSAT 12 News.
All right, thank you, Lee. Now, here's the QR code that will take you to our website where we have all our Election Day coverage. It includes articles waiting for results. We will post those as we get them, and the full list of polling locations. A reminder, as long as you are in line by 7 p.m., you will be able to cast your vote. We'll be right back with an update on that cold front.
Thomas J. Henry. The name you know, the firm you trust.
It's Black Friday all month long at Ancira Winton Chevrolet on Bandera Road. Come by Ancira and get huge savings, and for a limited time, low interest rates on most new Chevrolets. Like savings of $67.50 on a 22 Silverado pickup, plus an extra $1,000 off for Costco members. And this Equinox is now only $25,290. Stop by or check us out at AnciraChevy.com. Ancira Winton Chevrolet, #1 in San Antonio, just outside Loop 10 on Bandera Road.
Shop Academy Sports and Outdoors 3-day online-only sale and get up to 50% off the best brands. Buy online and pick up in-store. Shop with confidence with our price match guarantee. Plus, get free shipping on most orders over $25. This 3-day sale ends Wednesday, so visit academy.com now.
Aquifer fluctuated upward a little bit today, 1/10 of a foot. We're still about 32 feet below the November average. Mold moderate at 900. Pigweed low.
Chevy Silverado. It's got the power you want and the capability you need to do the job, so you can get to the important work. Find new moments, find new roads. Get $1,500 total cash allowance on all 2022 Silverado pickups with a 2.7-liter turbo engine. Plus, unlock your code to claim $500 Chevy Cyber Cash. Chevy drives Texas. Find new roads.
Not much rain on the radar, but we do have some nice showers out there. This is mainly on the south and west side of San Antonio. This is my favorite shower right now. 1604 and 281 on the far south side. We're talking near Palo Alto College, especially down toward Mitchell Lake. This is moving to the northwest at about 20 miles per hour. Putting it into motion, you'll see that development. And these showers have been following each other or training, and that actually bodes well for accumulations overall. We're going to track this one out here for you because that's actually the strongest and most impressive downpour at the moment. So that's headed to the northwest, little over 20 miles per hour. That's going to make it to McCollum High School at about 6:51, Columbia Heights at 6:56, Lackland Air Force Base at 7:03 p.m., Ingram Park Mall at about 7:20, SeaWorld, it's going to make it there at 7:27 p.m. That's that downpour. Now, I know SeaWorld and parts of the far west side, Alamo Ranch, you already have a nice downpour that's falling. Stevens High School, Marbach Road, 1604, and this activity is all pushing off to the northwest. Otherwise, there really isn't much else out there to speak of right now. This is all we have. You know, it's always luck of the draw, and those of you far south side, far west side, it's your lucky evening. You're getting these downpours. It's good to see. Otherwise, the low clouds have started to fill in, and they'll give the rest of us that dampness tomorrow morning for the morning commute. By the way, you could get a quick quarter to half an inch out of these showers, maybe even a little bit more out of this last shower on the tail end that's about to hit 410 and I-35. So that's what we have out there right now in terms of the rainfall. We do have other opportunities. Again, tomorrow, a few of these hit or miss showers, 20%, 40% on Friday. So scattered activity as our real deal potent cold front heads into town. Quiet across Texas right now. I want to point this out. Tropical storm Nicole here. This is east of the Bahamas, heading west toward Florida, likely to turn into a Category 1 hurricane, making landfall somewhere on the east coast from, well, just south of Jacksonville all the way down toward Miami. This is not the part of Florida that got hit by Category 4 Ian. That was the southwest side of Florida. Big upper level trough pulling precipitation all the way down into southern California. That's part of the overall pattern that's going to give us our rain on Friday and then much cooler temperatures, especially for this weekend. Readings right now in the 70s. Ocatula 81, that's an exception. New Braunfels 74, 78 officially in town. Port SA right now at 77 and Helotes 75. Tomorrow morning, upper 60s. We'll say 68 in San Antonio. Low clouds, a little bit of dampness, a few brief showers through the noon hour. 83 the high temperature in San Antonio. You get to Bernie and Bulverde about 79. Pleasanton 85 and Sabinal Hondo 83 degrees. It's more of the same basically. Wednesday and Thursday. Friday, temperatures fall down through the 60s. Then this weekend, we're looking at highs in the upper 50s to right near 60. By the way, colder and windy Friday and Saturday.
It's the Rooms to Go holiday sale. Right now, save on this super stylish 5-piece living room from Cindy Crawford Home. Just $21.77 or $37 a month, interest-free, in your choice of 4 colors during the Rooms to Go holiday sale.
It says here, United Healthcare has America's most chosen Medicare plans and local Medicare plan experts.
They'll even find you a plan with good dental coverage.
How do you know?
David, my local Medicare plan expert, he helped me find the right plan.
With benefits including prescription drug, vision, and dental coverage, our San Antonio team is ready to help you find a Medicare plan that meets your needs and budget.
Talk to a local Medicare plan expert today at 1-888-SHOP-UHC.
Don Rackler here. If you've never had 5-star service, now's the time to give John Wayne a try. With the fall weather, my techs aren't as busy, so we're having a BOGO sale. Buy any precision tune-up, get one free. That includes a heating, air conditioning, water heater, or electrical panel tune-up. That's right, buy one tune-up, get one for free for only $69. And if my technician didn't provide you with 5-star service, I'll give you your money back. Give John Wayne a try today. Call or text at 293-6700 and tell them you want the BOGO deal.
I'm Wes Mangan, and I live on a piece of property with my wife and 2 boys and several animals. I work in oil and gas, and I travel a lot, and so when I come home, it's like my sanctuary. I get to see Lauren and the boys, and it's been just a perfect fit for us, and it's really improved our family time. And this is the first land I'd ever purchased, so dealing with the land side of things and dealing with Capital Farm Credit was super easy for us through the whole process. I definitely feel like with Capital Farm Credit, together we are better.
Thank you, San Antonio, for joining our mission of inclusion. Because of you,
this is possible. This is your multi-assistance center at Morgan's Wonderland. Our community's compassion made this first ever facility a reality for our friends with special needs. We offer medical, therapeutic, and social health needs in this one location, providing comprehensive care never before dreamed of for people with disabilities. The MAC is another example of how working together, we are making a difference.
Ancira's got it. Your one-stop commercial truck and fleet dealer. Whether you're looking for just a few trucks or a whole fleet, you'll find exactly what you want at a price that's hard to beat. Chevy, Ford, Nissan, and Ram. Hundreds of trucks in stock and ready to go. Box trucks, flatbeds, work trucks, and a full line of heavy-duty trucks. Ancira has it. So for all your commercial truck needs, check us out online at Ancira.com.
It's the Rooms to Go holiday sale. Save big on this 5-piece queen bedroom set with dresser and mirror. On sale, just $12.77 or $22 a month, interest-free, in a rustic brown or white finish during the Rooms to Go holiday sale.
We are just a few minutes away from our election night live stream kicking off. Let's go live to our newsroom now with Steve Spriester, Stephania, Jimenez. And guys, we're going to be giving people the latest numbers and some perspective on those results as well.
A lot of numbers, Myra. I joked that when I started this live stream 10 years ago that it was kind of a political Wayne's World, kind of very low budget in a conference room in the old station, and all we did was give numbers and reaction. And so, yeah, there'll be a lot of numbers, a lot of reaction. But I also want to talk to our power panel now, Stephania, about the fact of voter turnout and why it seems to be lacking in Bexar County and in the state of Texas.
And that's a fact. So early voting, we know, has gone up in a number of states. I have the list right here: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania. That has not happened in Texas. Let me just give you some numbers here. So early voting in Texas is 31%. In 2018, that number was 40%. So we have gone down significantly. I'll start with you, Molly. Why do you think that is?
The Texas Legislature. I'm like, we've passed so many bills over the last several years. We no longer can do, we eliminated straight party ticket voting in 2020. We had Senate Bill 1, right, which banned drive-through and 24-hour. It added more restrictions and IDs for mail-in ballots. So I do think that we also have to think very specifically about our national conversations around voter fraud and elections not mattering and being, I'm putting all of those in my air quotes. Yeah. And I think that's also tempering potential turnout as well. But I think in Texas, particularly with a heavy GOP policies that passed, I think this is what we wanted. We wanted to keep, I say we because we vote, right? We wanted to keep the numbers down.
Kevin?
I don't know that I completely agree. Some of those places that you mentioned are just as red as Texas is. Could that be contributing some of it to the legislature? Possibly. I think a big thing in Texas is we don't have any what I'll call marquee races going on. You compare that to Pennsylvania or someplace like that where there's a lot of excitement around the U.S. Senate race, that type of thing. I don't see that happening here in Texas. What I am surprised about, though, is here locally. You know, we have a county judge who served for over 20 years, arguably the most powerful, if not, one of two most powerful positions here in Bexar County. I expected a lot more noise about that race coming out and a lot more activity here locally, and we haven't seen it.
And you know him a little bit.
I know him a little bit.
Okay,
yeah.
Got it.
Devontae, we've got about 15 seconds. Okay. Why isn't Bexar County turning out more?
Well, these guys kind of took all my thunder here, but I kind of agree with a little bit of both of what they're saying. But one thing they didn't say, it is a midterm, and so typically those midterms are a lot lower. But again, I agree with my colleagues here on those points that they made.
All right, DeMonte, thank you very much for that, and we'll be right back after the break.
True or false? A pizza was delivered to an astronaut while in orbit. True. Pizza Hut delivered to space. And just like that delivery, our stuffed crust is out of this world. Order now and get a large stuffed crust pizza for just $12.99. No one out-pizzas the Hut.
Heavy-duty pulling power. To conquer the high road or the off-road. The GMC Sierra Heavy Duty. premium, and capable.
Step up to GMC with 4.69% APR financing for 72 months on Sierra heavy-duty models. We are professional grade. GMC.
If you start to notice the signs of a settling foundation, don't wait. Don't risk damage to expensive renovations and new floors. Those can wait. Your foundation can't. Call Ramjack Foundation Repair for an on-site evaluation. If we discover unhealthy settlement, we'll engineer an affordable solution to stop damaging settlement permanently. A healthy foundation is a healthy home. Rely on the experts. Rely on Ramjack Foundation Repair.
For over 100 years, Cantwell Mattress has handcrafted its mattresses here in South Texas. We choose the finest quality materials like 100% all-natural cotton in our handcrafted, two-sided, flippable mattress.
Can't well sleep without a Cantwell mattress.
From sprained ankles to x-rays, Texas Med Clinic is here to help. With 17 locations in the San Antonio area, including 3 24-hour locations. Texas Med Clinic Urgent Care. We treat you well.
Thinking about selling your vehicle? Get a real offer today at Gun. Just like our real prices, we give you a real offer for your vehicle. Good for 10 days or 1,000 miles, and we guarantee it in writing. You don't have to buy anything from Gun. We just really need more pre-owned inventory. We'll give you top dollar and write you a check on the spot. Visit gunauto.com today for locations. Selling your vehicle to Gun means a real offer. Guaranteed. Real. Simple.
True or false? The first ever online purchase was a pizza. True. Pizza Hut was part of the original online order. And just like that order, we are home of the original stuffed crust. Get a large stuffed crust pizza for just $12.99. No one out-pizzas the Hut.
Wednesday, the CMA Awards is live.
Tonight's a wonderful evening to sing together.
Your favorite stars take the stage with a tribute to Alan Jackson. With performances by Luke Combs, Reba McEntire, Cody Johnson, Cole Swindell, and more. Plus, one-of-a-kind collaborations you'll only see here.
You will not want to miss this.
Luke Bryan and Peyton Manning host the CMA Awards live Wednesday on ABC.
And before we go here at 6 o'clock, just want to mention that we have you covered on air and online. Of course, tonight we'll have updates through ABC's election coverage, and then, of course, on the Night Beat at 10, reaction to those numbers. And online on KSAT.com, KSAT Plus, and the KSAT YouTube channel, we're going to continue our discussion, give results, reactions on election night.
That's right. There's so much to break down, from the early voting numbers to key races that we have, the gubernatorial race, the race for county judge. We're going to get, Bexar County is going to get a new one for the first time in more than 20 years. There's a lot to break down. We have our power panel with us, and we're very excited for you to join us. So join us right now on KSAT.com and KSAT Plus.
That's a pretty tight spot.
Watch this.
Your Buick parks itself. That's so you.
Of course you know where we're going. That's so you.
I got a 6th sense.
And a head-up display.
They're here.
You brought all these players in your Buick?
Yep.
So you.
It is.
At the heart of every Buick SUV is you.
Get 3.99% APR for 72 months and no monthly payments until 2023 on these Buick SUV models. Buick, ranked a #1 brand in the industry for new vehicle quality.
Hold on, I'm coming. You didn't tell me you were getting McDonald's.
Get your breakfast favorites for just $2. Sausage biscuit or sausage McMuffin with hash browns. Only at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
A company vehicle is any car, truck, van, SUV, bus, or fleet vehicle that is used for business purposes. A crash with a company vehicle is not just another car accident. If you were injured in a company vehicle accident, call Thomas J. Henry. Thomas J. Henry handles serious company vehicle accident cases and gets serious results for injured clients. Call today. Thomas J. Henry is available 24/7, nights and weekends.
Strong cold front on the way. We're going to talk more about it.
welcome to KSAT's continuing coverage of Vote 2022. I'm Steve Spriester along with Stephania Jimenez, and we are very thankful and we want to welcome you into this political discussion tonight. We're going to have returns, we're going to have reactions, we're going to have candidates, we're going to have consultants, pundits. I mean, the whole smorgasbord we're going to lay out for you tonight. And I want to make sure we acknowledge our power panel before we go any further.
We have DeMonte Alexander right here, and we also have Molly Cox and Kevin
Wolff.
Kevin Wolff. Kevin Wolff.
Yeah,
sorry about that.
Of a big name.
Sorry about that.
Kind
Nobody's wearing a name tag. Yes.
By the way,
basically policy experts that they're just going to be breaking down the results from today
and helping us ask questions of the guests that we have with us.
Yes, it's an interactive panel.
That means we want to get right to our first guest tonight, because I know he has an election night party to go to. So Judge Peter Sakai, the Democratic nominee for county judge, joins us now. Judge, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to have you stand on the other side of Stephania so the power panel can ask you questions as well. But obviously, the minute the numbers come out, we're going to put them on. But how are you feeling right now, right here?
We're feeling really good. We saw the turnout, and we saw the Democrats come out and vote. And I think the key in my race will be the crossover. People on the Republican side and independents that maybe not have voted Democrat in the past, I think are going to support Judge Sakai for the next county judge.
Have you spoken with your opponent?
No, not tonight, or not today. We'll wait for the results.
Have you made a concerted effort to get those crossovers?
Surely. Yes, that's why we kept on a positive message. We talked about the issues, and we didn't engage with the negative campaign that my opponent did.
You've looked at the numbers. I see your campaign manager was back there with you in our green room going over them. What is she telling you?
We're going to win tonight.
Okay, all right. Now I want to open it up to the power panel. DeMonte, I'll give you the first question for Judge Sakai.
Judge, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
I think the question I have, and I think when you first came on, earlier on in the election season, we talked about how Judge Wolff was able to, over the years, get those crossover votes. There's a list for Republicans for judge, Dems for judge. I think, to your point, I think you guys ran a very good campaign in terms of being positive, just sticking to the messages. One of my first things is, obviously there's more to do. And so what are some of the first things you want to focus on in your first 100 days? And then and what are some of those things you're going to do to reach more of those conservative voters?
My first 100 days, I've publicly stated that I want to get in there and I want to evaluate, use the metrics, use analytics to determine how efficient and effective Bexar County government is. One of the platforms was for Bexar County government to provide better customer service. So we, as Commissioner Wolff knows, we probably have a lot of issues with infrastructure, namely technology. We have a lot of issues that we've got to fix. We've got to get our justice system up and running. We have a jail system that needs a lot of work and a lot of focus. So we have to focus in on the problems and come up with solutions. And I'm going to bring everybody who needs to be at that table and figure out how we're going to fix things.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Molly.
I'm going to sideways, and I want to talk more specifically about the campaign itself. Okay. How do you feel?
I feel great.
Do you feel like you did it? You very specifically at the beginning said, I'm not going negative. You stayed true to that. Do you feel like this is the route you wanted to go?
I think our results are going to show that was the way to go, and I'm hoping that can be a template for future campaigns. You don't have to go negative. Stay with the issues. People made it real clear. Judge Sakai, what are you going to do for us, and how are you going to fix things? And that's the reason why I didn't go negative. Didn't want to get sidestepped and get into that area.
Okay.
Kevin.
First, let me just say it was a pleasure serving with you for 12 years while I was on Commissioner's Court and you were in your judicial seat, and you did an outstanding job in that.
Thank you.
As you and I have discussed before, moving into a potential county judge position is a very different type of judge. It's really much more administrative, more the executive branch than the judicial branch. I'm glad to hear you say, you want to take a look at things, and I'm also glad you brought up technology, specifically the digital divide. Have you thought about that?
Oh yes, that's an issue that COVID illustrated. We have a digital divide. We need high-speed internet connectivity. We've got to make sure that the unincorporated areas, our suburban cities are all connected. We've got to make sure our students are connected so that they can get their education through their school districts. And then we got to get our seniors connected. And we're going to have to not only have the high-speed internet connectivity, but we've got to make sure they have the devices. We'll have to utilize the bibliothèque that Judge Wolff and Tracy Wolff started during your administration, and we need to expand that. And then we need digital literacy. We're going to have to educate, because unfortunately, for people like me and perhaps you, we still rely on our kids and grandkids to teach us how to operate those things.
I want to know how different running for Bexar County judge was from your earlier races. How different was that experience and that race?
That was probably the biggest adjustment. I had to understand that the partisanship and the political parties and the ideology are very important. People want to know where you stand. And as a judge, I was protected by judicial ethics about not having to really state where I am. Nope. In the hardcore real world, as Commissioner Wolff has run, you better state your position, you better state it clearly, or otherwise the voters aren't going to support you.
Yeah.
There's been such a divide, especially over the last 4 or 6 years, right? How did you find that this go around? How are you going to talk to maybe voters who didn't support you this time? How do you reassure them that you're also going to be for them if you win?
I think the key is listening. I've learned that sometimes you just got to quit talking. Elected officials just need to sit down and listen. I also want county government to be more transparent and open, and I'm hoping to perhaps create more town hall type meetings and invite the public in and make sure that the neighborhood associations and people that don't necessarily participate in county government. Unfortunately, sometimes that was a big issue on the campaign trail. People don't always understand what the county does and what the city of San Antonio does. And so what we need to do is make sure that the suburban cities, the unincorporated areas are all included in these conversations.
The role of government definitely changed during the COVID pandemic, where people started realizing that they needed government maybe in different ways. But now we're sort of transitioning away from that. So what is going to be the one thing that you do focus on again if you win?
Well, and I think Judge Wolff and the Mayor Nirenberg highlighted, it's really the statutory authority that the county judge has, and that's being prepared for emergencies. And that's what the county judge is going to have to be prepared for, and that's what I want to do, is make sure that Bexar County is ready for whatever comes up.
I want to ask you a question about should you win tonight, the man that you will take over from. How much will you lean on somebody like Nelson Wolff, at least to begin with?
Well, obviously, Nelson and Tracy have been very close and been very instrumental. They supported me when I first ran for district court judge, and obviously I had his endorsement for county judge. So I'll always be relying on my friend and mentor, Judge Nelson Wolff.
All right, we're going to let you get out of here because I know you have an election night, and
That's
it
right.
seems as if the numbers haven't come out yet. I was hoping we'd get them in the first 10 minutes.
I'm refreshing.
Molly's refreshing as much as she can. Final question for you. If you win tonight, does that make you a double judge?
Judge squared?
Judge, yeah.
Well, or a judge is a judge. And so I'll just keep it Judge Peter Sakai.
I don't say Judge Peter Sakai.
No. That sounds like double. We'll just stay with Judge. How about that?
I wanted to know. I'm not up on this protocol.
All
so
right.
I just wanted to know.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
Yes, Judge Peter Sakai, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
I don't know what's
All right,
going
so
on.
we got a chance to ask him questions, and now we want to go outside to our friend Patty Santos, who's standing outside of the election headquarters just to give us a better idea as to what's going on there, because we have been plagued by a number of issues today. Power outages, also long wait times at some polling stations, Patty?
Yeah, the polls have closed, and there was a lot of passion going into this election day, but I got to tell you, I'm not really seeing what that is out here in the polls. This is one of the polling locations as well as the elections office, and you can see there really isn't a line. It's wrapping up. The workers are starting to put things away. Compared to last election, there was still a line. At 7:10, there was still a line out the door. Again, that was during the last election, but this is the line here. Polls have closed. We were supposed to have a press conference with the elections office at 7:30 to get the latest numbers, etc., but they actually scrapped that because they want to make sure that the leaders are inside handling any situation, any problems as those precincts start to close and those machines start to bring in the votes here to the office to be counted. We're going to stay here. We're going to bring you the numbers, and we're going to bring you any updates as we get them. The next update that we're supposed to get from the elections office is in about an hour or so. We're going to stay here and bring you that as we get that. We'll send it back to you.
Hey, Patty, I want to ask you a question before you go away. I want to know, I've heard that, especially at UTSA, that there are long lines right now, that they're talking about 2-3 hour waits. I want to remind people that if you're in line, you get to vote. If you're in line at 7 o'clock, you get to vote no matter how long it takes. I know that Jackie Callanan talked about that a little bit earlier.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's what she said. The polls closed at 7:10, 10 minutes ago at 7. But if you were in line by 7 o'clock, you can stay in line. You can stay in line, and they're going to take you in until you get to that voting machine and you get to cast your vote. And that is one of the reasons why sometimes, we're expecting those numbers to start coming in. Well, they can't really wrap up at those precincts until everyone there that was in line at 7 o'clock gets to vote, and that's why it takes a little longer for those votes to come in here and be counted.
Great. Patty Santos live from the Bexar County Elections Administrator's Office. Appreciate that, Patty. And
now we are getting some statewide numbers right now. So far, again, this isn't the final count, but I'll step out of the way right here. So we have, for the gubernatorial race, we have Beto O'Rourke right now leading with 57% support compared with 42% support for Governor Greg Abbott. But of course, that is still an ongoing thing, right? So we just want to turn to our panel now to talk more about that, because Molly, you had said you are prepared to be confused tonight.
All night. I'm generally prepared to be confused, but yes, I think all night long we're going to see, did it swing the way that we thought? Is it going to be as much closer than we anticipated? And I don't know that anybody's going to be able to know. I think we're in a weird time.
Yeah, and this is early voting. I mean, we're talking, my rough math is 1.5 million votes so far. I think there'll be, but before it's all said and done, 3 or 4 million.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah. So this, like we said, this is very early, and that's why it says early voting, not voting today. But does this tell us anything, Kevin?
That tells me that Republicans need to be very, very afraid that things are going to be a lot closer. I still expect Greg to win. You're also looking at, this is early vote, but traditionally your rural counties report way late. They've got different systems than your urban counties do. So that's what you're seeing right now.
Those are precisely the counties that the governor is actually banking on.
That's right.
That's why you saw him a lot in rural areas, and that's why he's in McAllen or down in the Rio Grande Valley right now. Yeah,
DeMonte, what do you make of these numbers?
They're there.
I think it's early. I still think that, to Kevin's point, I think those rural counties will come in. I mean, there's just so many rural counties in Texas. And I think we saw this similar to some previous elections where we kind of got a little bit excited about the numbers coming in. And again, some who were pulling for Beto get disappointed. But I think we'll see a big shift here once more of those numbers start coming in from the rural counties.
Right. And there are some counties, though, I believe Harris County, they're going to keep their polls open until 8 o'clock tonight because I think there was some sort of problem there, which seems to always seem to happen in Harris County. But they're going to keep their polls open until 8 o'clock tonight. So to what Patty was saying about the fact that there are long lines out there tonight in Bexar County, that would lead me to believe that tonight could be a long night locally as well, just because they have to wait for all those votes to to be tabulated from today, and so we'll see when the early voting comes out.
Yeah, well, let's be clear, that's a great thing. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. As long as it takes.
Yeah, that's a great thing. And and if you're pulling for the Dem side, you want to see this. You don't want to see an Abbott up 50% or have 50% already, right? Yeah. So this is a good sign for Democrats. Again, at the end of the day, I think Governor Abbott pulls it out, but this is a good sign. But I think we continue to see this year over year, with inching closer and closer to being more competitive in statewide races, but we're going to have to get some better candidates. Not saying that Beto's a bad candidate, but in terms of, we're seeing that in order to get those numbers out, somebody has to be pulling the top of that ticket.
Yeah.
And he just doesn't have that pop anymore as he did when he first came out.
Yeah. He's not the same Beto O'Rourke that ran against Ted Cruz.
I mean, he's just a little tarnished, Yeah. He's ran a few elections already. I mean, people were mowing Beto in their yards, in their backyards.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, but I just don't. He doesn't have that aura around him as he did when he first came out.
That
when
new, fresh candidate
Right.
smell.
Right.
By the way, these numbers keep updating. Now 56-43.
Yeah. These are great, though.
Do you agree with that, Molly?
No.
Beto?
I do not.
You had a look on your face that told me you may not agree with what DeMonte just
I
said.
do not agree with what DeMonte just said. Now, I understand it, right? Definitely the presidential run for Beto was, anytime you put yourself on a magazine and say, I was born to do this,
Yes, right.
maybe not the greatest message to put out.
No.
I do think that his campaign was much smarter this time. Like, I think when he ran against Ted Cruz, it was sort of haphazard and jumping on tables and having a good time. And I think this time it was much more concentrated and concerted and like ready to go. So I do think his campaign was more formal.
We could just interrupt for a second
please.
because we do have numbers now for Lieutenant Governor, just
Right.
as they continue to come in. So if we could
I
just...
think we also have some local numbers that have started to come in, but let's look at the rest of the state race. Lieutenant Governor numbers, we don't have any of those in Bexar County right now. I think the next one will be the one that'll be the state numbers, I'm hoping.
Okay, let's wait.
There
All
it
right,
is.
so there we
50%
go.
Mike Collier, 48% for Dan Patrick. But
A
again,
lot closer.
these are a lot less votes
lot
too
less.
so far. And let's see what the Attorney General's race is
Be
too
a lot of
before
undervotes.
we get to some of the other ones.
A lot of undervotes.
lot of undervotes.
Can't tell you how many Republican friends I talked to that undervoted.
Gotcha.
There we go. Attorney General, this is for Texas right
There you
now.
go.
You can see Rochelle Mercedes Garza leading Ken Paxton 50-47 again. Not nearly the votes that we're seeing in the
And also, I know we're
in the
like
governor's race.
looking at new numbers, but these were the numbers that he won with last time flipped, right? So in 2018, Paxton took this 50-47%.
Interesting.
So,
Wow.
you know.
That's a good point.
I'm also told that we have some Bexar County numbers in.
Do we?
I was actually told that there were some Sakai numbers that are in.
We
There
do,
are.
yeah.
Okay.
59-38.
This is why we're constantly hitting
50
refresh.
So right now, the Sakai numbers show 59% Judge Sakai, 38%
Trish DeBerry.
Trish DeBerry.
Yeah.
And that's still early voting.
That's early
very
vote.
early in the process.
Yep.
But I think that tells us something, does it not?
Yeah,
Typically.
We have a new county judge.
we have a new county judge.
Well, that's it. We have a new county judge. We're going to have a new county judge.
Judge
no matter
regardless.
what.
Right. I know.
Yes, this is
I was going to
true.
say, you guys aren't exactly
This is
making a bold prediction
We're going to
there.
have a new
Because
county judge.
if anybody should know, your dad's retiring.
Let's
It could
say
be
it
a
more
man or a
specifically.
woman.
Well, you know what's surprising to me? I mean, Trish worked hard.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, hard.
Oh, yeah.
She campaigned her butt off, man. And
Yeah.
And to what's surprising to me is the 38%. I mean, I know it's
It's
just
just
early
early
vote,
vote. There's
but
still time.
it's like, man,
Yeah.
you know, that's is that the community speaking or?
I mean, yes.
Well, look, there was when you look at both these races, remember I said earlier, there seemed to be a very low level of excitement. Your general rule, when you run a countywide race like this, it's $1 million just to run it. Neither one of these candidates spent much more than $500,000. And so the overall name recognition that you have out there is much, much lower, but also much more passionate about their particular candidate. It's not just a name that they've heard, it's a name that they know. To your point, Trish DeBerry worked her tail off. She was out there every day, and I feel quite certain every person that she touched went out and voted for her today. The problem is, you can't touch enough people in a county this size without a whole lot of money.
Okay, so what do you think was the issue as far as Bexar County when it comes to the county judge race that you feel excited voters more or got them or really pushed them to vote?
So I think, you know, what you're seeing here that excited them or maybe didn't excite them is these two campaigns, while they started off relatively nice, one side went really hard.
Yeah.
Okay, and whether you like it or not, I think that plays less and less, and I'm actually grateful for that. You know, I would like to see our candidates run on issues and those types of things, and not try to play the gotcha game with each other. I think that turns people off more and more.
I agree.
And you know, if that is an indication of this, then I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I want to, again, we're prefacing this that it's very early, but when you see this spread of 21 out of early votes, I mean, it's really going to be almost impossible.
It is.
Yeah. I mean,
you're looking at 70,000 votes between them, right? Like Peter Sakai has about 70,000 more votes than she does, than Trish DeBerry does, and even if we have 150,000 people turn out today, she'd have to pick up a whole lot of those people, and he would have to not.
Almost 3 to 1.
Right.
I mean, you know, look, the general rule is that after early vote, you're at 54% or more.
Yeah, it's that 4%
pretty much
margin.
done.
Got it.
Yeah.
Are you calling the race right now?
I would, yeah.
It's kind of what
Kevin
we
Wolff
talked about
calling
earlier.
the race
How, we
right
talked
now.
about how the negative thing turns voters off.
Yeah.
You know, I was telling her earlier about how, you know, just to Kevin's point, just run on your credentials and why you think you can solve the problems of the community, and let people vote on that versus tearing someone else down.
Well, but here's let me
okay.
play the devil's advocate in this whole thing, because it's easier to say that than to actually do it, because we actually proposed a debate between Judge Sakai and Trish DeBerry, and the Sakai people said no.
Okay.
Yeah.
They didn't think they needed a debate. I personally think a debate should be a pre-qualifier for anybody running for elected office, but that's me. How do you get the differences out, you know, when money is an obstacle and all these other things are an obstacle, plus you're trying to overcome. Sakai had way more name recognition. He'd run countywide before, and Trish DeBerry hadn't really since she ran for mayor.
You just defined the reason for the worst best system in the world.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, you know, without some of those things that you talked about, it's hard to get noticed. And you know, if you can't raise the money, or if somebody's not willing to spend it on you, those types of things, it's damn near impossible. You can, you know, especially in large urban areas, you just cannot knock on enough doors. You have to reach them other ways.
Yeah. Having said that, I will say that I thought the best DeBerry ad of the entire campaign was when former Judge Cindy Taylor Cryer endorsed her and said why she endorsed her. But it didn't come out
It came out at the
until
very
11th
end.
hour, and
Very
I was
end.
like, why
did you
this
wait?
what you were playing
Yes.
from the very beginning?
Well, and
I think there were enough mistakes made by the DeBerry campaign that they can look back and say, maybe we shouldn't have done
I'll let Molly jump in and I'll add
No,
in
I
after.
was going to say, I think by that point we were already in dog whistles. We were like going negative real hard. And I think at that point, right, anybody that's done with the negativity, and particularly the dog whistles that were happening in that particular campaign,
agree.
I think I'm like, I think what you're seeing here is a referendum of no thank you. And I'm like, I will stand, that is my declaration.
I want to go into the
referendum of no thank you. I like it.
I want to go into the point
For
you
that
mentioned
type of
about
politics.
debates.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Although I personally would like to see the candidates, and I see the benefit for the community getting that, but you also have to understand there's political strategy here, right?
Absolutely.
Science behind
if
political
my candidate
strategy.
doesn't have money and my candidate doesn't have resources, I'm not going to let them piggyback on me and go do a debate. Now you're on the platform with me because, you know, so that's a strategy that you have to give them credit for that strategy.
And it's not just Peter Sakai.
No.
Mayor Ron Nirenberg didn't debate Greg Brockhouse the last time because he didn't need to.
If I feel like I'm winning and if I feel like that my candidate doesn't have a chance to beat me, no, I'm not going to give you a platform. You go pay for that.
Don't voters also see that as arrogance, though? If you feel like you have it in the bag?
Well, it's not something you personally say. It's just amongst your team. I mean, you're thinking about, hey, it's chess, right?
Yeah.
I will tell you, as a former candidate, there were at least a couple times in races where I intentionally did not debate my opponent because I knew I was leading. And there was no reason for me to give them a stage.
If it ain't broke.
I mean, he could gaffe, right? He could say something that just ruins it for nothing, right?
Yeah.
And so you got to give it to, I think, the GOAT, Laura Barberena, for.
That's the science behind running for office.
Let's go ahead and
One second.
Let's go ahead and put up
We
some
have
of the
local numbers coming
I think
in.
we finally have the graphics for this
Okay, let's
race.
step out of the way here.
59-38, this is what we've been talking about. And
21%.
yeah. Early vote, that is a huge number, though I'm going to say I heard some polling that backed up those numbers. This very number, you know, a month ago, and I think that may have been part of the reason why the DeBerry campaign started going as negative as they did at that certain point. So, do we have other local numbers that we can get through here?
Yeah.
Precinct 3 is going to be a little more interesting.
Oh, okay, all right.
You mentioned that was going to be the one that you were watching.
Yeah, DA's
It's going to be a lot closer than it
Yeah, do we
normally
have the
would
district
be.
attorney's
Because
numbers?
you have a countywide race, which is blue, but you have a new person that was selected by.
Okay, this is Attorney General for the state of Texas, which has flipped again. Ken Paxton now leading 51-46. this is I kind of think this is going to go back and forth throughout the night.
And
here's the district attorney now, 57-43. Joe Gonzales leading Mark
14
Wood.
points.
Expected. Yeah, but again, the late numbers come in. I think it's going to be a close race.
This is a little closer.
A little closer.
Yeah.
But barely.
But
That's 60,000 votes, no?
yeah.
Heed
my words. 54% after early vote. It's almost a done deal.
Okay.
Could we also
he's
talk?
at 57, so that's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Could we also go to the congressional
you've got a
race
lot to catch
district
up.
28? I believe you said that we had those numbers.
I mean, you're talking about that's outside the margin of error.
What, 57?
Okay. Well, while we wait for those numbers to,
Yeah.
I believe, is that okay? So here we go.
All right, this is 28. Of course, this is very early. I mean, we're only talking roughly
That's 25%.
less than 30,000 votes, 25%. But that's a huge.
Still a big swing. I mean, you have to remember he went through a really rough primary with Jessica Cisneros, right?
Yes.
And that was her second time going up against him. I mean, he still won.
I expected that
but that was close.
I expected that a lot closer.
A lot of money that was spent on
in
this
that race, a lot. And a lot that happened, just controversially.
Yes,
the ads
to
that
your
were
point,
put on.
that was part of the reason why I expected a much closer race there.
I want to bring on now County Judge Nelson Wolff, who joins us, the man of the night, the man who's probably smiling wider than anybody else tonight, and his wife Tracy. Hi, Tracy. Good to see you over there. Yeah, the most relaxed one. Come over here by
if you could just join us over here, please.
Talk to the power panel here.
Very good. How are you?
Hey, Dad.
This is our power panel right here. This is the power panel. So, your reaction to the early vote that we've seen. I don't know if you saw it with Judge Sakai up 21% right now.
I kept tracking the numbers to 2018. That was the last gubernatorial year. So when you compare numbers, you want to compare to the gubernatorial year. We were running behind in the early vote. I think we had 388,000 to 420 4 years ago. But now today on the election day vote, that's going much stronger than what a lot of us thought. There's still people in line. They're probably going to be there. You probably won't hear any returns till about 8:30 or 9 o'clock.
From day of.
From the day of the vote. But the numbers that you've been showing, very hard to overcome those numbers. Impossible, but hard. And unless there's a really big, strong, Republican vote, then the numbers probably will hold up roughly where they were, maybe a little lower. But we'll see. You don't know who's voting today. Could be a surprise, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
What's one issue that you're really hoping that your successor really takes a hold of and really tackles, especially now? I was talking before about the transition, that during COVID-19, people started realizing, okay, this is what my government is here to do, and your role obviously changed during that. Yes. What do you think your successor should really focus on in order to make sure that the people of Bexar County are taken care of?
Well, first of all, I hope that he keeps the management system in place. You
said he.
She. He, she.
You or she.
They. There's still hope. That to keep the management in place. We're one of the few counties that has a county manager. In fact, my son, former Commissioner Kevin Wolff, provided the third vote for us to be able to do that. And we have a very efficient management system. Saves taxpayers a lot of money. AAA bond rating by all agencies. No other local government has that around here. We've left more cash on hand than we've ever had before. So we got a good management structure, a lot of good people working for county. So if we can keep that management structure in place and continue to rely on them to run a good, efficient county government, then I think we'll be in good shape. Now, whatever the new county judge takes on as their major issue, that'll be up to them. I think the worst thing that can happen is a former county judge trying to tell the other one what to do. I don't do that. I won't do that. I'd be glad to provide any advice or help when they need it, but the new county judge needs to set his own agenda.
We just talked to Judge Sakai, who was here right at 7 o'clock, and we were hoping to get some of those early numbers with him, but he needed to get out of here before they came down. But he said he's going to lean on you. He considers you a friend and a mentor in this whole thing, and he wants to rely on you at least early in
Well, I
his
want to
term?
do everything I can to help him. I just don't want to get in his way. I've made efforts here to make sure that we have a good transition period. We have till the end of the year to do that. I've been able to downsize my staff. I've been able to move a lot of my stuff out, slowly disappearing.
Yeah. I imagine you have a few things.
50 years worth of stuff that's going in the archive center.
Yeah.
So I want to try to make that transition as easy as I possibly can, be able to do anything I can to help in that transition, and that includes bringing on some staff if they need it to work it up. This is the first time in over 30 some odd years we've had a transition period like that. So I want to make sure it works right, that I do everything I can to make the next job as easy as possible for the county judge.
All right, I'm going to let the power panel ask you some questions now.
Oh,
I'm going to
okay.
go grab something off my desk.
Right.
So I'll start with you. I'll first.
He's not going to raise your allowance.
Yeah, exactly.
Inside baseball right now, insider.
It was my one chance. So I'll tell you the same thing I told Judge Sakai. It was a pleasure serving with you as a commissioner for 12 years.
Yeah.
It was also a pleasure serving with you as your son, which is, I think unique, certainly in the state of Texas. My only question for you is, are you ready to be on the sidelines with me and watching the game rather than being in it?
It seems like you're having a hell of a good time.
I am. I can't tell you.
He doesn't realize that he's about to get bumped.
I've gotten 10 years younger. I've lost 10
He's much more
pounds.
relaxed
It's
and
great.
enjoying himself than he was before. I'll be busy. I've got a number of things in the cooking up that I'll be working on and doing, and I'm not one that can sit by and watch the show go by. I'll still continue to have some input into it. Yeah.
I want to know what you have cooking. Is it a bandana line? What are you going to do? I want to know.
Well, first of all, I want to use what I've learned to try to help younger people, particularly in the college system. And so I've been talking to a couple of the universities about doing some lecturing and working with their students. So that's one thing I want to do for sure. And then, of course, I'll be writing all the time. I'll write all the time anyway. So there'll be a couple of new books popping out. And then I may end up doing a couple of other things that might be helpful as we go along. But that looks like the way I'm going.
I like it. I'm just saying, bandana line, put it in your pocket. I'd like 10%.
Yeah, there you go.
DeMonte.
So it looks like you're finally going to get your baseball stadium.
Well, that's one big issue that the county judge will have to do. I've had the opportunity to vote to meet with some of the owners of the. Well, it's got to close. Show me the cash before you close.
Right.
But it's got to close. I think they have a good chance of getting downtown stadium. I support that. The world has changed since we built the stadium. The stadium, like me, is getting old. And so what downtown has done is made a quantum leap in the last 30 years. It was nothing 30 years ago. Quantum leap due to a lot of people making a lot of investments. So it'd be wonderful to see it in the central city, adding additional entertainment and additional opportunities from people all around the county to come to a centralized location. So I hope it works, and I'll certainly be supporting them.
Well, I wanted to thank you, and it was a pleasure serving as your campaign manager.
Yeah,
for
that's right.
Your last campaign. So thank you for all your years of service. I've learned
Thanks
so
so much.
much from you. I still continue to learn from you, and wish you the best in whatever you decide to do in the future.
Thanks,
Yeah.
thanks, Devon.
Now, as we wrap this up, I just have one final question for you. As you say sort of goodbye in your position to the people of Bexar County, is there anything, there's really been nothing like these last 5 years and what you've learned from your, position as a leader. What is some wisdom that you could impart, that you could share with the people as you leave, as you step down?
Well, first of all, you can't get anything done without public support. And I've been fortunate to have that on most of them. I haven't won everything that I've tried to do, but some of the very major issues, whether it's Bibliotech, whether it's the San Pedro Creek that we just opened, whether it's the Mission Reach of the River, whether it's doing the 13 Regional Sports Park or the AT&T Center or the Tobin Center for Performing Arts, they've supported us in those efforts. So I'm very grateful to the citizens of Bexar County. It's been my great pleasure and honor to serve them now for over 50 years. And I just can't say enough about what a great city this is and how much we love it.
What's the biggest piece of advice that you're going to give your successor?
Well, I mentioned just the management piece, but I think that they're going to have to try to chart out what they want to do in all these different areas that the Commissioners Court is involved in, whether it's economic development, whether it's developing sports park, whether it's preserving the environment, whether it's providing additional education opportunities for people. They got to chart that out. And I would say to them, forget about what you think voters will think about you. Do what's right, and baby, they will stick with you if you do the right thing. And that's what they need to think most of all. I was lucky. I had my wife, Tracy, to be there with me all the time and to really take a leadership position, too.
I also want to mention your new book. You talked about writing. It's called The Mayor and the Judge. I don't know where I can... Here you go.
Show it.
The mayor and the judge, they're wearing bandanas. I actually have an autograph copy.
What?
I know people.
Somebody probably gave it to you, and now it's double worth what they got. So with the signature.
Tracy, can I ask you a question?
Come up here, Tracy.
Come on out here with us. I want to ask you a question because we've been talking to your husband, obviously, a lot about his emotions and reaction to, leaving office. I want to know what your thoughts are.
Well, I have been a little bit concerned, I have to say, because he travels at such a fast pace all the time. And but I do know that there are still many things he wants to accomplish, and he will. And when you have earned the trust of so many people like he has, he's going to continue on to help a lot of issues in this city that need to be helped. I'm very, very proud of him for everything he's done. We've given, most of our marriage has been involved in what we've been doing and supporting him. And I'm sure there's another book or two coming out pretty soon too. Right, Kevin?
You know it.
So we'll see what the next chapter brings, but we already have some ideas of what we're going to do. And I always work with children's issues. And I have recently gone on the board of the Alamo, so hey, we've got to get that Alamo done.
So we know you'll be busy.
I am going to be busy. I'm already raising money for that, so I'll be very busy, and children's issues as well, always.
Yeah.
So, I can't wait to read your book. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it might be next.
I would like 10% of that as well.
Yeah. Tracy, Nelson, thank you so much for all that you've done. Thank you for joining us tonight, but also all that you've done for the city and the county. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you, Judge.
And this doesn't mean you're off the hook on election nights. Like, I still want you to come back and give us your insight, okay? All right. Thank you, guys. Enjoy your night. Thank you, Tracy.
We have a number of field crews out there.
Yeah,
right now?
I believe Dylan Collier is with the Sakai campaign tonight. I believe, Dylan, are you with us? And I'm guessing they are very happy with what they've seen so far.
Oh, yeah, huge cheer went out probably 15 minutes ago when they put the early voting results on the big screen behind me, a 21% lead for Judge Peter Sakai after the early voting totals came in, which was a little bit less than I'd heard in the last few weeks. I'd been given access to see a poll, and it was actually done by a group that was backing candidate Trish DeBerry that showed she was trailing by 25 points at that juncture. So whatever tactics she used over the last few weeks, the closing parts of this campaign may have helped her gain a little bit of ground, but nothing that helped her get actually within striking distance of Judge Sakai.
Has the candidate actually arrived there yet?
No, we are still waiting on Judge Peter Sakai. We were told he could be here any moment. He's going to address the supporters briefly and then head back to what they call the war room to take a look at the election results as they stand at that moment. I don't think it's going to be a situation where he's back there for several hours and then waits to make final comments. I think it'll be one of those situations where he declares victory pretty early because he's in a very comfortable position at this point.
Yeah. Dylan Collier live from the Sakai campaign. I believe we have Garrett Berger, who is with the DeBerry campaign as well. I'm guessing a very different picture there. Garrett, are you with us?
I am, Steve, and you are correct on that. Right now, there's about 30 people over here, most of them actually behind our camera. We're spinning that around for you. Now, they haven't had the results up here on the screen, but people have been checking their phones from what we can see. It is relatively subdued. We do know Trish DeBerry is off to the side. She is aware of the numbers, and we just heard from Greg Brockhouse, a former mayoral candidate who has been part of her campaign, that a concession speech is probably likely in the next few minutes. We're going to be looking out for that. At this point, I think it's just the campaign is chalking this up to, she was a Republican running in a blue county. When we had talked with her earlier today, she had acknowledged that, that was a risk. She just saw a path. She saw a possible path to victory, and she decided to go for it. But right now, does not look like that risk is paying off. So I'm going to show you back here on the screen as.
Yeah, Garrett,
Sorry,
appreciate it.
that.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Garrett. We'll check in with you off and on through the evening, but not the news that the Trish DeBerry campaign wanted to hear tonight.
Yeah, that's right. But, we're also periodically checking in on the national races, right? Because those definitely have big implications for our voters as well. And we're going to go to that Pennsylvania Senate race. Obviously, these are not complete numbers just yet, but this is the Fetterman race against Dr.
I don't think we have those graphics, but you've got them.
Yeah, we don't have the graphics yet, but we do have some of the early numbers coming in so far. And Fetterman has 80% support compared to Dr. Oz, the Republican, at 17%.
That's with 6% reporting.
Yeah, that's with 6% reporting.
I guess it's very heavily Democratic.
But those polls obviously had tightened a lot in recent days. So yes, it is still very early, but we just wanted to give you those numbers.
Cow.
Also, the numbers in Georgia. A lot more precincts they're reporting. This is 37% right now. This is Raphael Warnock, the incumbent Democrat, with 52% support compared with Herschel Walker, the Republican, the Trump-backed Republican, with 47%. So that's just about a 4-point spread right now.
Yeah. Now, if you want to know how this whole thing works, I have some people that are scheduled, but it's also just, I tell people, just show up and we'll work you in when you get here. And some people don't expect to be on. Tracy Wolff did not expect me to call her on, but I found her insight to be valuable.
Smart.
And with that in mind, I see that we have Congressman Joaquin Castro, who is over here, and I want to work him on because I know he's got places to be tonight. Congressman, great to see you. This is Stephania. I don't know if you've met Stephania
Thank you so much.
before.
Yes.
I'll have you stand over here by the panel. I want to know, first off, I'm guessing congratulations.
No, thank you. Yeah. It's been a great night for me so far. Yeah. The early voting total, and everything, and a very strong night for Democrats as well in Bexar County.
Well, and that's what I want to talk about. The fact that this is, if the numbers hold up the way they have, I believe this is like the third straight cycle where Democrats have won and won big by at least double digits. Is that putting Bexar County out of reach?
Yeah,
for
2016
countywide offices.
Well, folks will remember that in 2014 Democrats got killed in Bexar County. But 2016, 2018, 2020, and now 2022, Democrats have dominated Bexar County. And I don't think there's going to be a single Republican left at the courthouse after tonight. I think it's all Democratic. So it's a pretty solidly Democratic county at this point.
All right, I want to talk to you about the House.
Yes.
Where you are going to be. It looks as if Republicans will take over control of the House. What are you hearing on that front and on the Senate front nationally tonight?
Well, I think the Senate is probably going to take a little longer to figure out which direction it's going. The House, of course, I haven't seen the results yet, but it wouldn't surprise me if Republicans take control. Oddly for me, it's kind of a familiar position because I was in the deep minority when I was in the state legislature in Texas, in the minority when I was in the first 6 years of my terms in Congress. I think what you're probably going to see is, unfortunately, a lot of Benghazi-type committees, a lot of investigations into Hunter Biden. Some Republicans have said they want to go after Social Security and Medicare. So for Democrats, for those of us that care about protecting Social Security, Medicare, and other issues, it's going to be playing a lot of defense. And like I said, being a Texas Democrat, for me, that's a very familiar position.
Yeah.
So what is your plan? Because Social Security is such a big issue. Again, even here in Texas, you have so many retirees and people that depend on that income in order to survive. How do you assure them that you're going to do what you can to make sure that that they're still going to get that money and that it's safe?
No, you're right. Even over the last few weeks, people have started asking that as there was kind of word that seemed like Republicans could take over Congress. My grandmother worked her whole life, and the only thing she had at the end of her working time was a Social Security check coming every month. That's the case for a lot of people in San Antonio. So, fortunately, you still have a Democratic president. So Joe Biden is not gonna sign into law anything that I think cuts Social Security or Medicare. So he'll be able to block that. The Senate is still up in the air, but if they've kept the filibuster rule, so I don't see them getting 60 votes on something in the Senate to cut substantially into Medicare or Social Security. But still, you got to make sure that you stand up and fight for those two issues and those two important policies for folks.
You're a man who also, because you were in the state legislature, I know you keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening statewide. Early numbers that we've seen so far look very encouraging for Beto O'Rourke and some of the other statewide Democratic candidates. Do you have optimism tonight that Democrats are going to break through in one of these statewide elections?
Yeah, I mean, I've got my fingers crossed. I think we had really great candidates. Beto put in so much effort and so much energy. He was out there, just everywhere. But Rochelle Garza also running against Ken Paxton. That was the race that in the polls was the closest one, actually, time and time again. So I'm hopeful that somebody will be able to win and at the very least bring us a little bit closer as Democrats to breaking through. But I think people could be surprised. I think you could see a slice of Texas Republicans that actually voted for Democrats this time, and not necessarily because they're in love with the Democratic Party all of a sudden, because they feel the Republican Party has left them behind and just gotten too far out there on so many issues. And sometimes when that happens, there will be members of a party that vote for the other party to send a strong signal that the party's got to stop what they're doing. And I'm hoping as a Democrat that some Republicans do that today.
Could we talk about some of those issues? Roe, obviously, a big one. When that was overturned, there was a feeling that that would be a big help for Democrats for the midterm elections. It doesn't seem like that's happened. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, well, we'll find out today. I still think that there are a lot of women, especially including Republican women, that are going to go into the voting booth and make a decision based in large part on that court case. But look, there's other issues that are important to people, including the price of gas and the price of food and their rent and so forth. All of these things, the economy, and so politics is a competition of which lens you can get people to see the world through. And that's when you see all these ads by the parties, really targeting people and trying to get them to see the world through a certain lens, whether it's people that are concerned about losing reproductive rights or people that are concerned about the economy.
All right, I want to let the power panel, that's what we call them, the power panel. Just in case you didn't know, it should be obvious just looking at who we have lined up here. I'm just saying. So, Molly, I want to let you have the first question for Congressman Castro.
Yeah, I think, obviously, I'm a fan.
Thank you.
You're my representative. I enjoy you. When you speak, it's very clear. You know exactly what you're saying. You make it very simple. It resonates, at least for me, right? I realize I'm a person of one. What has been shown time and again over the last particularly 4 years is that Democrats are not penetrating the lexicon. They're not getting through the way that Republicans are, and I'm curious what is happening in the Democratic side, particularly in the House, to make sure that messaging is getting out in a way that resonates.
No, that's a common critique of Democrats, right?
Do you agree?
Sometimes I think it's true, yeah. And we do struggle. Look, the DCCC, the folks that do so much of the work in terms of promoting Democrats across the country, for months during these terms, are constantly trying to figure out, not only get the pulse of people, but also figure out, hey, what's the best way to communicate what we stand for, what we've done for you, and why you should vote for us again. And so it's always a challenge. And take the Inflation Reduction Act, right? That was an example of why we named it the Inflation Reduction Act, right? That was kind of an example of getting it right in terms of the legislation, the name of the legislation. Yeah. But you're right. No, it's a common critique.
Kevin.
Stephanie, I'm going to throw a little different twist on the Roe v. Wade. I think that case is what has made Democrats much more competitive in this election cycle than they would have been. I think you would have seen a much larger, nationally, Republican wave, and I think it would have affected Texas as well. So I actually see that sort of case as giving them a leg up. It may not have been, the thing that brings them over the top, but it kept them in the race.
Yeah. Sure.
Congressman, I love some of the things that you say. I will be the first.
I'm sure you very diplomatic. Very diplomatic. Yeah.
I will be the first to say that my party, the Republican Party, has been fractured and borderline crazy at points. But I would also argue that I see the Democrats headed the same way. And you live this up in Washington. If you step somewhere towards the middle, you get the crap beat out of you from both sides. But everyone who has half a brain knows that governance gets done in the middle. And so while I listen to you and what might happen if the House and Senate flip and there'll be this sort of investigation and that sort of investigation, and I hate that stuff. Okay. Yeah. But then when I hear you talk about, okay, what do we need to do, if anything, about Social Security, Medicare? Okay, that's real. That's real government.
Sure.
What can we do as a country who is so divided by our parties right now? How do we get back to that middle? What can you do?
I mean,
as part
look,
of that?
it's a great. Let me start with something I hope that all of us can agree with. There has to be an even stronger effort at rooting out disinformation and misinformation.
Yeah. Good point.
Right? There are so many conspiracy theories that are going around now, right? I would argue that most of it is on the right, but I'm sure some of it's on the left, right? That is one thing that we've got to get back to, a place where these conspiracy theories and misinformation was not so rampant.
Yeah.
Because you go out there and you talk to people and you hear them talk about stuff and it's just completely fantastical.
Yeah.
Makes no sense at all. And there is a group of folks who are making their decisions based on that kind of bad information.
You know what, Congressman, that's something I wholeheartedly agree with you on. Somebody asked me right before I got out of office what I saw as the biggest change after 15 years in office. And Stephanie, you're not going to like this, but I said it's the downfall of the fourth branch of government.
Yeah. Well, that's all part of. It plays into it. You sow mistrust with the institutions that we turn to so often. I mean, I may not like it, but it's something that's happening.
It's true.
I mean, I've been called.
This is dangerous.
I've been called an enemy of the state by people on certain social media because of what I do. I'm sure Stephania has run into the same thing. So it's like, basically, you would hope after lie, I'm just going to say it, people would realize that the place they're turning isn't giving them.
Well, a lot of it is on social media, and what happens is, when I started in politics, I got elected in 2002. There was no Facebook, Instagram, no Twitter, and I'm not saying I want to go back to that place because these platforms have really democratized opinion. They've allowed people to put their opinion out there and to distribute that opinion in a way that didn't exist before. But it also has allowed for a lot of bad information, intentional misinformation that has moved public opinion, that moves public opinion in different ways. And so we got to find a way to scrub that out.
Yeah. DeMonte?
Congressman, thanks for being here. I think you mentioned something about being on defense, right? And so that doesn't always stay at your level. It also trickles down to all levels of government. So what advice would you give the next group of folks who are a wave of candidates that go through, or just political organizers or grassroots organizers? How could they? What advice would you give those groups in terms of going into the future and how we protect the rights that we currently have, so we're not losing anything?
I mean, I think it's a great question. I was talking to Greg Casar earlier. We were talking earlier today, and I was saying, we're going to have to be really vigilant, and not just us in Congress, but elected officials, hopefully in both parties, because I really believe we're in a fragile place with our democracy. We're in a really, really fragile place, and we're just going to have to be vigilant in protecting it. Those of us that believe in a woman's right to choose, that believe in Social Security and Medicare and protecting those, that believe in economic opportunity for all, the things that Democrats stand for, we're going to have to be vigilant also, because in the House, if Republicans take over, and really if this breed of Republicans takes over, then, like I said, you're going to have a lot of different wild investigations But there's a lot of power that comes with that when somebody has the investigatory power to set the agenda and to set the narrative, and you got to be able to fight back against that.
Yeah, when we talk about the January 6th hearings that took place, public opinion actually, the public people who were asked whether they thought Trump was at fault for this actually went down by 3% after the hearings, even though the Democrats and Republicans made their case.
Yeah, and I think part of that was also, right after January 6th, there was a feeling in the country like I think most of that President Trump was responsible in some way. Even Mitch McConnell went on the Senate floor and said as much. But then there was a counterwave by President Trump and his allies to change the narrative, and I think with some success. And I think that's what you saw in the numbers, is then there is this counter narrative, and I would say of Fox News, but also of other right-wing media that starts to push that counter narrative, and with a lot of success, quite honestly.
I want to talk about, may have been 4 years ago at this very place. You and I talked about Beto giving Ted Cruz a tight race,
that's
and
right.
the fact that you did look at that race, and you and at that point Congressman O'Rourke talked about, you both didn't want to get in the race and what should happen. Are you thinking about the future for yourself and what that means, and does it mean a run for Senate or something else in the future?
Oh no, right now I'm just thinking about going back I'll go back next week, but the next term in January, and we'll see what happens tonight with Democrats and where they're going. But honestly, if I was going to run for a higher office, it's more likely to be something in Austin rather than something in Washington. I mean,
So
I'll never
that's
say
changed,
never.
That's changed a little bit then.
Well, but that was kind of in 2020, especially when I thought about running for the Senate. That was the deciding factor in how I made my decision. Was the Senate, I think, for the longest time, don't get me wrong, over the past 2 years, I think with a Democratic president, Democratic Senate, Democratic House, I think we've done a lot of incredible things. The infrastructure law, the Inflation Reduction Act, for example, a few other big bills, the PACT Act, which really helped veterans, for example. But a lot of the Senate's work is voting on judicial candidates and so forth, and it's otherwise fairly quiet. And there wasn't a lot of stuff I felt, putting aside the prestige, obviously the Senate is more prestigious and so forth, there wasn't a lot of work I felt that I could do up there that I couldn't do in the House already. And so that was the final thing, was I thought, okay, you're going to get in a big fight for this race. The odds are really still against you, but you could win. I thought it was maybe winnable. But really, like, if you win, okay, what are you winning, right? And versus what are you winning if you're in one of the statewide offices in Austin? But I think you get more there.
But it's also would be hard, I would guess, to give up what you've built in the House.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I was in the middle of all the intel stuff, and so like I've participated in that whole investigation on Russian interference in our elections. We were part of both impeachment processes, all of it. I was part of the Senate trial team. So these years, in terms of the history of what's going on in the country, I feel like I've had a chance to be a really active participant, really on behalf of the people of San Antonio. And so I can't imagine now having run back then in 2018 and really not having done almost any of that now.
Yeah. But you're not ruling out a run for governor, I'm taking it, when you say Austin.
Sometime in the future, I'm not ruling that out. Yeah.
Okay, all right, good. I've really nailed you down there. By the way, I do want to... I got a definitive thing.
Hopefully Bethel's going to win today. So hopefully
Beto wins today, and then then your plans are all out the window. Okay.
We want to get to that in just a moment. So, Congressman, thank you so much for joining us here on the set. We really appreciate your time, sir.
By the way, I want to point out that DeMonte and Kevin may not agree on much, but they agree on hats. So just so you know, I kind of feel like next time we should do this, I should give out Stetsons to everybody. So.
Molly feels left out. That's all right, Molly. I'm with you.
I don't want one.
All right.
Why would we want to cover that fabulous hair?
This is true. Yes.
Some time with that.
I mean, there's a reason these two guys are wearing hats. Just saying.
There is.
What are you saying?
Everybody can't do this.
Pointing it out.
Right. Everybody can't do this.
I know. I know.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very hard to achieve. Congratulations.
Just saying.
Thank you. So now we're going to go to John Paul Barajas, who's
and these are the latest numbers that we want to give. 52-47 now. We're talking about, more kind of, I think, what people were expecting this race to be.
You have a 5-point spread right now. And we're going to go to John Paul Barajas, who's joining us from McAllen down in the Valley. This is where the Governor Greg Abbott, has been campaigning. John Paul?
Well, I'm sorry if you guys are asking me a question right now. It wasn't coming through, but let me tell you, the party here has definitely livened up since the last time we talked to you guys. When we talked last, the initial numbers had just come out, and everybody was huddled around that TV, just kind of taking it in. With Beto had that early lead. Now as numbers have come in, Abbott obviously coming back strong, and so everybody's taking a looser approach. We have people on the dance floor having a very good time. Still no sign of the governor himself. I doubt we'll see him anytime soon until we get more of a better indication of how these election night numbers are going to be trending. But here everybody's having a good time. We're in McAllen. We know that the governor is looking to continue strides in trying to win over the Hispanic vote here in South Texas. Definitely a predominantly blue region. They're hoping to continue making strides to change that. The Hispanic vote will be a big factor in this governor's race. So right now, everybody's having a good time. Some of the biggest issues why we're here, along with that Hispanic vote, also because one of his biggest pitches is border security at a time that we're seeing record numbers of crossings. We're just a few miles away from the border here at this event in McAllen. So he's really appealing to his pitches and the vote he's really trying to get. So that's what we got right now. Everybody's loosened up, drinks are flowing, the band's going. But we'll be having lots more updates throughout the night.
All right, John Paul Barajas live from McAllen. Thank you, John Paul, and thank you for bearing with us as that music was blaring in the background at the Abbott campaign. Now we're going to go to the Beto O'Rourke campaign. The first results looked great for him. They have since evened out a little bit, and now the governor has taken the lead. Let's go to our Alicia Barrera, who is live in El Paso tonight. Alicia, the reaction that you're seeing there so far this evening?
It's getting more and more packed. Just so you get an idea of what we're dealing here with as media, we're shoulder to shoulder. There's about 3-4 tiers of cameras, crews from all around Texas getting ready to share their reports as well. But when it comes to supporters of Beto O'Rourke, they're trickling in as well. Pretty quiet, We did see those first numbers trickle in and Beto O'Rourke taking the lead. Steve, you mentioned it, that has since changed, but there was a little burst of cheers and applauses for their candidate. He hasn't made it here. Polls in El Paso just closed. It is 7 p.m., so we're an hour behind here in the city of El Paso, but we know that he was going to make a stop at one of the local elementary schools here, Mesita Elementary, about 15 minutes away, as his last stop for this campaign trail, because he's been all over Texas. He was in San Antonio this morning. We've seen him all around, and it's been a tough race. I mean, we see those numbers, and that is expected. So again, tonight, a lot of people expect to make it out here. There's an outdoor venue for some of his supporters. And then here, again, we can't really show you because we're, again, shoulder to shoulder with all the reporters. But we'll give you a closer look later on in the night. Steve, Stephania.
All right, Alicia, thank you. And Beto had all the star power in the world. I mean, really exciting celebrities. Lin-Manuel Miranda. You had Will Ferrell, who also went out to campaign for him in Houston. Yet, that is not Texas. And I'm not talking about Houston. I'm talking about the people that he brought in. I mean, who did that sway, if anyone? It made it exciting.
Well,
made it a little more
exciting. This is what we talk about when you guys know that run these campaigns. These rallies, they're fun, they're exciting, but how many of those people are actually voting for you? You know?
Yeah.
And so, but I think it's 300 and some odd counties. What is it in Texas? I mean, it's 250. It's hard, man. Like I said, I think Beto was at his best when he ran for Senate, and that wasn't enough, right? And so now you're running against an entrenched governor with tons of money. I mean, yeah, it's hard, man.
Yeah, he came 3 points behind Ted Cruz when he ran for Senate.
And that's with the star power. That's with, I mean, he had national celebrities and everyone else, and you still don't. It's tough, man.
Yeah. All right, let's get to some numbers.
I'm surprised about how close it is.
I believe there was a bit of a change here. Now,
52-46 now. The governor extending that lead a little bit. I want to go to Bexar County, 59-40. Beto beating Governor Abbott in Bexar County. That's probably about expected.
This is a 60-40
County. Right.
And that's right.
You're
right
going
on
to
the
see
money.
that in most urban cities in Texas.
Yeah.
Now,
All right, let's go through some more numbers
Okay,
while
sure.
we get a chance here. And this is County Commissioner Precinct 3, the unexpired term, Grant Moody and Susan Corbell. And this was thought that this would be a close race, and it's turning out to be a close race. This is your former precinct.
Yeah.
You know, it's still early voting. I mean, he's not at 54%, so it's not a done deal.
It's not a done deal. It's going to be a long night for Grant. There has not been a vote less than 55, 56% in I don't know how many years, well before I was there, that automatically went for the Republican coming out of early vote. So this is, what you have is you have two candidates that have next to zero name recognition.
Yes.
Right. Okay. You know, Grant couldn't get started on a campaign until July of this year. You know, Susan started on a campaign earlier, but she started on a campaign in a very gerrymandered Republican precinct, locally gerrymandered precinct. So it's been very hard for either one of those candidates to raise money and build up.
So what
name
moved the
recognition.
needle?
So what moved the needle, and I think makes this so close, is you had a sign up earlier where the split here locally between Beto and the governor is 60-40. Okay, and so you're seeing here in Bexar County a stronger D-wave ripple, whatever you want to call it, and that's affecting Precinct 3, and you saw it in the county judge race.
That's what I was going to say.
So you had a Precinct 3 county commissioner deciding to run for county judge and not doing very well. That brings down Republicans at the same time.
So these could be Sakai coattails?
Yes.
Am I calling that right?
Yes,
Right.
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But also, I think if straight ticket voting is here, that's a lot closer to even that.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of undervotes that's happening here because there's no name
because nobody
value
knows
there.
them.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So that if you don't know them, they're just not voting.
Yeah,
When you're
right.
talking
Not
about
voting.
undervotes, just people not
imagine
voting.
you're just going in and pushing all D's. I mean, she's going to get all Sakai. She's going to get, all those. And
Yeah.
so it's
But
gonna
to
be,
your point, Steve, that 47 is some Peter Sakai coattails.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the district attorney's race. And I want your thoughts on this race, Molly, as we look at some of the...
Yeah, sorry, I was going back also to 2020 just to look at when DeBerry ran.
Against Christine Hortek, I believe.
That's right. It was only 54-45 then.
Right.
So
And we thought that was
pretty
amazing
close.
for Democrats.
Yeah.
That Hortek ran a great race and with no money and made it that close. All right, 57-43. This race getting a little wider than maybe it was earlier. Molly, your thoughts on this race?
Yeah, I understand that there were talks about it being much closer, and I was like, no. I think that Bexar County is like such a Democratic county now, and I think LaHood has name recognition because his brother was a Democrat prior, right? So I think there's a little bit of that, but I'm like, I think it's, if I were to call a race, although I don't do that, I think we're looking at, to your point on Peter Sakai, I also think that actually our Democrats at the top in our state are what is pulling out Democrat voters beneath, right?
Yeah.
So now we know, instead of straight ticket voting, if a Democrat or a Republican walks in and wants to do straight ticket, they just have to keep going through and pressing Dem, which I think is going to push Republican judges out of the way, right? I think we're going to see a pretty significant blue.
I think that's the message also, I'm sorry, Steve, that when you're at the top of that ticket, you have the resources and money to communicate to a wider audience. That needs to be part of that message too, is that, hey, I need you to go down and check,
Right.
There is a little bit of, well, hey, I don't know this person, why would I vote for them type of thing, but I'm that way. But anyways, there is some opportunities in that top tier ticket to message a little bit better in terms of, hey, we need you to support everybody on this ticket, and I think we see better numbers when it comes to that.
I want the input from all three of you on this question. This question I asked Congressman Castro when he was here is Bexar County becoming, a bridge too far for Republicans when it comes to county-wide races? In what we have seen, double-digit losses time and time again, and I'll start with you.
I'm going to say yes. I think the last person, Parmelo?
Yeah.
Susan Parmelo?
Yes.
It's just hard, man.
Pomerleau or Susan Reed? I'm not sure
Susan
which one.
Pomerleau.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I think Reed won as a Republican
yeah.
too. I just don't remember who won the last.
Parmelo.
Pomerleau.
Okay.
Okay.
The last one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just when you see that, and you see 60-40, and you see, I mean, if you look at the trends in terms of who's moving to San Antonio, you're seeing even the ideals of people who move here, they're more on the progressive side. So it tends to, as the years go by, you tend to see those numbers get wider and wider. So I just think it's hard for Republicans to win countywide in the rural areas.
Yeah. Molly?
I think that you're looking at a place. I'm going to get up on a tiny little soapbox, but I do think that San Antonio is a different type of city, right? It has a shared community vision. It passed a compassionate charter. It said racism is a public health crisis, right? The way that our community operates is this sort of like big town, small town, which has its own space. But I do think that we're like tackling issues that sort of clear the way for negativity or this like nasty politics to not exist. And what we're seeing in the current Republican Party is nasty, right? So I think there's also a little bit of like decluttering of that too. So I don't know that it's like forever foregone. I think that it's forever foregone for this particular Republican Party messaging and process, right?
Yeah.
My short answer is yes. It's going to be tough for any Republican to win countywide, which is unfortunate, especially at the judicial level, because those poor judges, county court at law judges, district judges, they can't get up on anybody's radar screen, and they end up getting swept out one way or another.
No party has a corner on
nobody,
judges.
exactly. And so it's going to be very, very tough. The only thing that I think turns that is who's in power at the national level and how bad are things. And so when you can get those sweeps, you might be able to time something here in Bexar County as a Republican to win countywide, but it's going to be very, very tough.
Now I will say, you get somebody like Joe Strauss.
Yeah.
That's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible.
In Bexar County.
Yeah.
Because he's getting Dem and Republican
Oh
votes.
yeah, absolutely.
So it's possible.
You'd have to have a
the right
candidate like that.
Yeah.
Someone who truly crosses over.
Yeah.
Just going to interject for a moment. We're just getting word here. Our reporter Patty Santos, who is telling us about the voter situation, she's saying that people are still voting outside of UTSA. They're still standing in line. Remember, we told you the polls are supposed to close at 7 o'clock, but if you were in line already by 7 o'clock, you can still vote. And remember, there was talk about, okay, was it an hour delay, an hour and a half delay? Well, this has been confirmed now that you had people waiting there for a long time.
And when you hear people in line at UTSA, I think of young people.
Yes.
Is this the youth vote?
Yes.
Turning out on election day and willing to stand in line for hours to vote, which I find very encouraging.
Yes, I like that. I think that's what's happening.
I mean, if I was the former head of something like SA 2020 and that was one of our core initiatives, I think I'd be thrilled tonight.
Yeah. I'm like, hooray!
Which Molly Cox was.
Well, you can't give pizza anymore.
You can't do pizza or water.
Or water anymore. God forbid somebody pass out.
Yeah.
You can't give that out.
I want to welcome County Commissioner Rebecca Clay Flores to our panel. Great to see you. How are you?
Hello. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
You know the members of the panel, right?
I do.
Okay. How about you stand over here by Stephania?
Cool.
How are you, Commissioner?
I see his sense of style is rubbing off on it.
I said they don't agree. They don't agree on much, but they do agree on
Commissioner,
hats.
even more. Check it out. Look, go ahead.
I think I found your next career path. Influencer.
That's it.
You could be an influencer. Yeah.
Started an essay to DC a few years ago.
Your reaction to, first off, Judge Sakai's apparent victory tonight?
I'm excited. Early voting numbers say 59%. So, of course, historically, statistically, when it's in the high 50s. But, we have to wait for all the numbers to come in before they claim victory. But I'm really excited that Judge Sakai will be my future colleague.
Why do you think he is winning so convincingly tonight? Is this a message for other county candidates?
So I guess we could say a lot of different things, right? We could say Bexar County is a Democratic county, so Democrats came out. One might also think, the former commissioner came in at the same time I came in. And when we vote, when we block walk, when we ask for votes, we're asking people to support us for a term. And she resigned short of her first year of a 4-year term. So maybe some people kind of voted against that, not necessarily for Sakai, but against that perhaps. So there can be a lot of things in it. And during the primary, I was like, this is such an important race. Why is it so quiet? I haven't heard anything. What's going on? And then I guess like in the last month, things just kind of exploded. I would say for the worse. It kind of got a little negative, a little nasty. But, I guess for Judge Sakai, that probably worked in his favor. For the former commissioner, probably not so much.
Do you have a question for?
What's the one thing that you really want to work on with whoever wins? I mean, we obviously know that Peter Sakai is obviously well ahead.
All right,
Okay, we are getting word
We're
right
actually
now.
told that Trish DeBerry is about to concede
Yes.
this race. I believe we're going to take that live.
Can
real
we go
quick
to
now,
that?
If we can go to that camera.
Is it on? Oh, here we go. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Blessed and honored and humbled and privileged, and certainly have my 2 great kids, Scott, who came in from Austin to be a part of this, and my daughter, who's been at home with me, who's a senior in high school at Alamo Heights, who has lived every day of this journey, with me. Been through good times and bad. So first and foremost, I just want to say congratulations to Peter Sakai. We fought the good fight. Best of luck to he and Rachel, regarding what they're going to do for this county, moving this county forward. Clearly, it was a very good day for Democrats across the board. But listen, my family is here today. Dana, my sister, her husband Tim, my niece Tracy, my daughter's best friend Joaquin. Say hello. Yes, my brother Mark, who's 11 years older. We share a birthday. My niece Carly, who works at Christie Santa Rosa. I come from a very large family. And then my great niece Harper, who's the most important part of this day is that she told us she got her back tuck in cheerleading. So, that's an important accomplishment. So, listen, at the end of the day, we got in this race because we wanted to make a difference. We felt like this county needed leadership. We felt like there was an opportunity, clearly, when we resigned from the seat, and that was a very tough decision because I loved the seat being county commissioner, and we did a lot. Listen, I'm going to read off a list of maybe, some of the accomplishments. Lowered the property tax rate to the lowest it's been in 25 years. Established a family leave policy at the county that did not exist before I advocated for it. And it seemed like a very practical idea, and I couldn't believe that nobody had talked about it before. And I remember having a conversation with the county manager, and he was like, well, quite honestly, Commissioner, nobody has ever advocated for it. So, that was the difference in having somebody who was a small business person, pragmatic, and really, quite honestly, a female who was on the court. The other thing was a 10-day body camera turnaround policy that I waited a year for from the sheriff that we didn't get. Because what? What does that do? We're not investing millions in body camera equipment if we're not turning around that footage, because what does it do? 99% of the time, it exonerates the police officer. But it also brings closure to the family that's involved in a controversial issue. The other thing is restore the elder fraud unit to the DA's office that had been vacant for 5 years. And so that was important. A prosecutor and investigator restored to that office because why? Because the elderly don't have time to wait on restitution or prosecution when they're scammed every single day. My dad, who's 96, and my sister will tell you, is scammed on the internet and on the telephone all the time. And then lastly, one of my proudest moments on the court was appropriating $300 million, a record amount of money for domestic violence.
All right, you're watching Trish DeBerry, who is giving her concession speech. She is conceding that she will not be the next judge for Bexar County, that Peter Sakai is the winner tonight. We are joined by one of her former colleagues. Your reaction to what you heard from Trish DeBerry tonight?
I have a lot of different reactions. We were colleagues. We did work alongside each other for a year. It's now the end of my second year. There's a lot of things that she mentioned, for example, cutting the tax rate, something that I abstained from, chose not to vote for or against it because I felt like it was just political shenanigans, and I choose not to be a part of that. To say that they're going to lower the tax rate, which saved an average an average savings of household of $4, which is a real slap in the face to constituents of Precinct 1, just so you can put it on a political postcard saying, I lowered your tax rate. So there's a lot of things. It's kind of early for her to concede, so that's very gracious of her looking at the numbers. But I wish her well. I'm glad that her children are there beside her, and that's, family's the most important thing.
Now looking ahead now, as you get back to tomorrow's going to be a different day, right? We're expecting a mixed results just across the board here in Texas. What are you looking forward to working on with Peter Sakai? Let's look ahead.
So a big thing for me is mental health. In the state of Texas, sadly, our jails are the #1 providers of mental health services. So it's almost like we as a community wait for young people to make stupid mistakes. We throw them in jail. Then once they're in jail, we realize, well, maybe they need some mental health help. So then they get mental health services. And at the state level, the state is using COVID still as an excuse to not transfer a lot of people in jail who need to be at state jails. They're leaving them here. Yeah. So it's causing overcrowding in jails. It's causing, obviously taxpayer dollars. We have to pay more. The sheriff has to come back and ask for overtime pay. And jails are not for people to be locked up and to rot. There's definitely a place for jails, and some people need to be in jail. But a lot of people need mental health services. So something that Bexar County and across Texas and across the country in general, we are lacking beds, mental health beds for long-term care, meaning between 30 to 90 days, not only for adults, but for children and teens also. So I really hope that with Judge Sakai coming in, that we can really work to find a remedy for that and support more mental health beds across Bexar County.
All right, I want to open it up to our panel here, or as I call them, our power panel.
Yes, I've heard you refer to them as such.
DeMonte, your question for Commissioner Flores.
Huge fan. You already know that.
Thank you.
Obviously, this is obviously a new era of with Judge Peter Sakai. If he should win, look like he's going to win. I think I have 2 questions.
Okay.
What are some of the things he mentioned, like with the digital divide? Is that something that you feel like you support as well in terms of how that relates to your constituents? And I forgot my second question, but let's just stick with that one. So
yeah, definitely. So at Commissioner's Court, we passed, we set aside from ARPA funds $25 million for the digital divide. Mm-hmm. A lot of which is going to be in a pilot program in Precinct 1. Because Precinct 1, I believe, is the most diverse precinct. Mm-hmm. So Precinct 1 that I represent is south of downtown. So Southtown, including Brackenridge High School, where I am a very proud alumni of.
Eagles.
Thank you, purple. So Brackenridge High School all the way down to the county line. So including Sandy Oaks, Somerset, Von Army, the southwest side, including Lackland, and then it goes up to Westover Hills, SeaWorld, all the way up to Alamo Ranch. And so part of that is inner city, part of that is rural, and so there's a huge digital divide. My background's in education, so these are things that I was already talking about. And of course, the pandemic, people cannot deny anymore that there is a need for it. So I think I'm excited that that's also one of his priorities. Yeah. And now that we've already set aside the $25 million from ARPA, I think we're going to be able to get some good things done.
I did want to follow up with that. So when you came in the office, you didn't have, per se, a mentor to kind of say, hey, here's where the stuff is, right? You had to kind of get in and figure that out. What are some of the, I think, challenges, maybe I don't know if that's the right word, that you think the judge will have to kind of get through as going into a new office, although he has Judge Wolff to kind of lean on, but what are some of the things as a new elected official that you had to kind of figure out there that was a little tough for you?
So many things to figure out. I mean, Commissioner's Court was definitely a men's world. I am the first woman of color county commissioner. Depending on what happens in Precinct 3 tonight, I may be the only female commissioner, which is sad, right? Because we went and, wow, there's 2 females in Commissioner's Court now, and now there's maybe, depending on what happens. So there, just ask a lot of questions. I think perhaps one of his greatest thing is going to have to, when you're a judge, you make decisions based on cases, based on evidence. You have attorneys fighting for each other or fighting against each other. With Commissioner's Court, it's, as when I became commissioner and someone told me, have to be able to count to 3. So once you get your 3 votes, so that's different. So it's not just because, your background's a judge and you're used to making decisions and giving orders. Does not work that way in Commissioner's Court. Because, and I think, there's a lot of, I'm definitely a proud Texan. There's a lot of things I love about the great state of Texas. And one of the things is that every county in Texas has a Commissioner's Court. Whether we're a large county like us or a small rural county that only has 800 people, and the commissioner represents, 200 people, and I represent 502,000. The county judge's vote is worth just as much as any of the commissioners' vote. Wow. So that might be interesting for him to get used to. But I think just asking a lot of questions, and I'm just excited. It's going to be a good year.
Thank you.
I was so glad that you were talking about being the first woman of color and then also potentially the only woman at Commissioner's Court. It shouldn't fall on your shoulders, and I'm going to ask you anyway. How do we get more women and more women of color elected? How do we get them running? How do we support them? Right? It feels like we're starting to see it more and more. Yeah. We're starting to elect more and more, right? And I'm curious, particularly here in South Texas.
We have to run, and as constituents, we have to educate ourselves in the matter and make sure we're voting for the right person, not just because they're a woman, not just because they're a person of color, but the person who's going to do the work and advocate for our community. So I've always been politically inclined and, hesitating getting into politics because it's so dirty. I'm not even on the ballot this year, and I was telling Judge Wolff, I was like, I don't know if I can stomach politics. How do I get to my own campaign, which is pretty rough, I might say. And so, when I decided to run finally, and I took out a 16-year incumbent who spent $500,000, I only spent $37,000 on my race, not because I was trying to be frugal, but because people didn't think I was going to be the 16-year incumbent. There had never been a woman of color in Commissioner's Court. And I was someone who was always advocating and saying more women need to run for office, more, blacks and Latinos, I'm Blaxican if you didn't know, need to run for office. And so here I am. And then I was like, I'm a woman, I'm black, I'm Mexican, I'm educated. I am tired of some of the political scandals that were happening on the South Side where I live. And I'm also someone who believes in not just complaining and complaining and complaining. Step up and do something about it. So that's why I ran. So I think that people need to be courageous, because you have to have some courage to run, because it is sometimes a dirty game. And so you need to run, but run because you really want to serve, not just for the title or for the power.
Absolutely.
And now to a guy that I'm sure you're very disappointed you didn't get to serve with on the Commissioner's Court, Kevin Wolff.
Commissioner, first, let me thank you for your service.
Thank you.
I have had the pleasure of watching you over the last year in your first term, and everything you just said to these last 2 questions is so spot on. Taking the time to listen and learn as you move into a new office, and while Judge Sakai has great experience as a judicial judge, it's nothing like what he's going into. And while it'll be good that he'll bring that piece of experience, because this as a commissioner already, it's about really funding the judiciary, funding the sheriff's office, funding the DA's office, those types of things. I look forward to seeing the 2 of you work together. I know you developed a very good relationship with the current county judge, and I hope you will do that with the new county judge, and take some of that stuff that you've learned over the last year and help guide him.
Thank you.
He's going to need that help.
Thank you. I actually just left his election party when the numbers came out, and I called him, and we were talking about that, and I told him, and he's heading over to his party. I was like, I'm heading over to where you were at KSAT. So, we already have begun to develop a good relationship. But I am going to miss Judge Wolff. We've developed a really great relationship, and I'm Really, really sad that he's leaving. But for the record, in case anyone else tries to claim it, I've already claimed his patio furniture. December 31st, my staff and I were moving it over to my part of the balcony.
Nice. They are vicious on the commissioners.
Wow, I'm telling you. What was he going to do with it? Right? He wasn't going to take it.
He's not going to do anything.
Yeah, I think that's a wise choice.
Yeah.
I
So
think
I'm really
it's a
looking
wise
forward to it.
In Commissioner's Court, you draw your own boundaries.
Is that what it
Yes,
is?
you draw your own district. This is all mine.
Rebecca Clay Flores, Bexar County Commissioner, thank you so much.
Thank you.
for
Can
your
I do
time.
one shameless plug?
Yes.
Okay, so people have been
Yes.
running for office. So I want you to take out some of your stress and run at Precinct 1 5K. You can run, you can walk, or you can crawl this Sunday. Go to my Facebook page and sign up. Benefits all proceeds go to benefit the Texas Kidney Foundation.
Harvest Trot 5K. Love it.
This Sunday.
Yeah. And thank you for your
Sign
first
up.
time on the live stream.
Yes, thank you for being here. We
now
appreciate
you're going to have
it.
to come back. You realize that, right?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Awesome.
Thank you so much for
Appreciate
being here.
your time, always. Thank you. Thank you.
And now we're going to go out to Congressman Tony Gonzales, who's joining us live via Zoom right now. Okay, I'll step out of the way here.
There he
so you can
is.
take a good look at him.
Tony, can you hear me? Steve Spriester.
And Stephania here.
All right, we're having some communication problems. Tell me when you're ready to try. Tony, can you hear us? It's Steve Spriester. All right. Really wanted to talk to Tony about his race tonight. And I see that we have the Zoom set up. You want to take a break and come back to it? Doesn't seem like he's hearing me.
Okay, well, let's wait until they sort of get that settled there. You know, one of the big issues for that race, he represents Uvalde. We
Right.
have to talk about Uvalde when it comes to this race and how it affected the way that people were voting. I mean, you saw, who can forget that powerful, powerful ad with the families of Uvalde who wound up supporting Beto O'Rourke, who, you know, one of the lines in that ad was, "We're not political people." They were doing this. They threw their support behind Beto because of gun control. And that and Uvalde is sort of synonymous. What say you about the impact that tragedy had on Texans and how they're voting tonight?
So you know, it certainly has an effect, and it also happens to be in one of the few congressional districts in the entire country that you could argue is a toss-up. Okay, and while the lines were redrawn a little bit, it's still as close to a toss-up as you can get.
And this is 53-42.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people expected John Lira to give Tony Gonzales the race that Gina Ortiz-Jones did.
No,
2 years ago.
But he is because of what you just mentioned. Tony's going to win. Okay, that'll prove out over time. But you know, Uvalde has sent a strong message. You know, not just in the state, but in the United States, that you know, people want their government to do something. They're not sure what they want exactly, but they want them to do something. And you're seeing some of that here in that congressional district.
Were you surprised that Gonzales broke with House ranks and voted for some of the gun control legislation that passed?
Actually, I wasn't, because of what I said in the beginning. Yeah. This is as close to a toss-up congressional district as you can get, and I applaud anyone who has served in that district. Will Hurd was in it before, and you heard me say to Congressman Castro earlier that if you gravitate towards the middle in D.C., you get beat up by both sides.
Yes.
Okay? Tony's had to suffer that as well. And listening to his constituents, the people that elected him, he did the right thing there.
Yeah. Is now that he has won re-election, much like Will Hurd did, does this make this not so much of a toss-up, Molly? I mean, does this make this more of a solidly Republican district?
Or is this more about Tony Gonzales?
When you wrap your head around, this district runs from San Antonio, all the way to the border, and then all the way out to the outskirts of El Paso.
Geographically, it's the size of the state of Pennsylvania.
Right.
Wow.
I mean, it's hard.
Listen, just because of that comment, I actually heard that Dr. Oz was going to move into it and run.
Yeah.
He might. No?
Because it ain't working out so well for him in Pennsylvania.
It's not working out. Same. So, yeah. No, I don't know that it's solidly red. I do think it's about Tony.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask
Yeah.
you. That is it about that, and also the name recognition, and people tend to get comfortable with their
Yeah.
congressman or woman or person, and I think what do they have a re-election rate of more than 90%?
Yeah.
So.
Right. I also think that you also got to look who's running his opponent. Like, who knows John Lehrer? Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now
I think we have Tony Gonzales
We
with
have
us.
him on
I'm
right
hoping
now.
we have him on Zoom. Tony, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, Steve.
All right, there you are.
Yeah.
You know what? You look great just sitting there. We just couldn't have a conversation back and forth. So I appreciate you taking the time for us.
Yeah.
You're up comfortably in the early vote. What do you think made the difference in this race?
Man, I am so excited. You know, here's the Constitution is in my hand, and I swore an oath to the Constitution since I was 18 years old. And we, the people, have spoken tonight. And what does that mean? That means Americans want the straightforward leadership that requires action and accountability. And that's exactly, as a Navy chief, what I've done my whole life is results, not excuses. And you know what, Steve, it's about showing up. You know, today I put 700 miles on my pickup truck. We went to 13 counties. I left San Antonio at 4 a.m. and we got back to San Antonio at 7:30 p.m. So people demand action. I'll say this too. Look, campaigning is about dividing. Now is the time to govern. It's about putting any differences aside for the betterment of all Americans. I look forward to House Republicans working with the president and others to bring this country together. Start by securing our southern border, start by lowering the price of things, and just bringing the country together.
And how about the people of Uvalde, sir? We spoke actually a few weeks ago on the special that we're working on for Uvalde, because it's hard to believe, but we're going to approach the 6-month anniversary soon. What is your message to the people there who have looked to you for leadership and are saying, a lot of them are saying, we're not going to stop campaigning tonight? They're going to keep pushing the issue because they want something to be done. They want schools to be safer. What message do you have for them?
You know, we performed well in Uvalde. We actually outperformed just about throughout every county throughout the district. You know, I was in Uvalde earlier today, and here's one of the things is, you know, I actually had a conversation with one of the fathers of the victims, and you know, we disagreed on a couple of issues. What I told him was this, though: I will always show up. I will always listen to you. I will always represent you honorably. Whether you vote for me, whether you don't vote for me, I will always represent this district. Part of it is coming up with solutions, not rhetoric. There's enough rhetoric in this country. We need solutions. And I was reaffirming to him the Safer Community Act, which I'm very proud of. We were able to pass this legislation, $8 billion worth of mental health, $300 million worth of school safety. But that is only the start. So I encouraged him, hey, let's keep talking. Let's keep having a conversation going forward. This doesn't end tonight.
You will be going from the minority in the House to the majority in the House, it looks like tonight. It looks like Republicans will take over control of at least the House tonight. What does that mean to you, and what does it mean that you can make happen for your district?
You know, it's not only about Republicans going into the majority, it's about how we're doing it with the most diverse candidates we've ever had. You know, this is really the year of the Hispanic Republican, you know, whether that's in Florida, Texas, Arizona, kind of throughout. So to me, it's now this. It is time to govern. The American people want solutions. They don't want rhetoric. There's enough of the finger pointing. How do we roll up our sleeves, come together, and solve some of these tough issues? How do we talk about healthcare? How do we talk about school safety? How do we ensure that, you know, our economy is strong? How do we ensure that our nation is safe? People along the border, I represent 42% of the border. People along the border have had enough. Our lives are turned upside down. It has to stop, and it can't be rhetoric. I'm really excited. You know, I was able to pass a bill in the minority. I'm excited to be in the majority and work with my colleagues across the aisle to get things done.
All right, Kevin, Wolff, do you have a question for him?
Hey, Congressman, congratulations, and as a fellow Navy man, you have my support all the time. You said some things here that I think were really outstanding. We had a little discussion and debate here about how your district is one of the few that is what we'll call as close to a toss-up as you can get. How do you stand your ground? Because it's tough, like I've said before, when you move towards the middle, you can get beat up by both sides. So how have you stood that pressure, and how do you plan to continue to stand that pressure?
Commissioner, a big part of that is by showing up. Another part of it is, you don't tell people what they want to hear. You're not going to please everybody all the time, but you are going to, I'll take your call. I'll listen to you. And at the end of the day, I will deliver. This is about delivering. There was an article in the Express News this weekend about your father, Judge Wolff, and I immediately reached out to him and said, hey, you're going to be sorely missed. So these are part of the things. It's not just about Washington. It's not just about fixing Washington. How do we fix San Antonio? How do we come together and go for the betterment of San Antonio? Republicans, Democrats, as elected officials at all levels, state, local, federal, come together for the betterment of everybody. There's enough division in this world. And look, you can be firm in who you are. We all have a belief system. At the end of the day, we're there to represent our constituents. And, tonight just proves, I'm on that path to represent the constituents, but it's about coming together and delivering for San Antonio, for Texas, for all Americans. It's what I've done my whole life, Kevin. Being a Master Chief, this isn't new. I've worked with all different people from all across the walks of life, and it's very real. But we have to govern. Now's the time to govern.
DeMonte, I'll let you have a stat at it.
Congressman, good to see you. And also, just much respect as from one veteran to the next. We have a couple of veterans up here. You said a few words tonight that, and my view is a little bit different than Commissioner Wolff. So you said accountability. You said showing up. You said getting things done, coming together, those types of things. And you also said a lot about rhetoric and people saying words. I'm going to go back to Uvalde. And I think a lot of those families supported your opponent. And I think the reason why they did that. And so when we talk about accountability, when we talk about being a bridge builder, gun control is one of those issues that we're going to need bridge builders for, right? And so I guess what I'm saying is when you mean show up, when you mean let's stop the rhetoric, how are you going to be a bridge builder for those families who obviously their vote is speaking for them? So how do you bridge those ideals versus what you're currently doing right now?
Yeah, no, we did really well in Uvalde, and that wasn't by accident. The other part, I go back to the Constitution. I swore an oath to the Constitution. So how do we protect the Constitution? At the same time, how do we get meaningful things over the finish line? And there's ways to do that via legislation, which we passed, the Safer Community Act. That's real. I mean, a piece of legislation like that hasn't been passed in 30 years. Now, that isn't an end all. That's a start. But that's very real. The other part is honestly through funding. If show me how much you love me by how much money you're devoting to these resources. We were able to secure $2 million for a new mental health facility in Uvalde. That's important. We were able to secure just a couple weeks ago $442,000 for school safety. These are meaningful things. These aren't words. This is money that is going to the Uvalde school to make sure our kids safe. One of the things that I've been advocating for, I represent a district that has 119 cities and towns. Guess what? Every one of my cities and towns is afraid that what happened in Uvalde can happen there. So
right.
I look at it, how do we get ahead of the problem? And I don't worry about the rhetoric and getting in the mud. And the other thing is listening to folks. I go back to the conversation I had with the father. We disagreed on a bunch of things, but guess what? We were conversating. At the very end of that conversation, I said, let's keep talking. I would love to have dinner with you. I'd love to visit. When you come to DC, let's visit in San Antonio. I'll visit with you here. We have to have dialogue. This country has to get back to having dialogue. You can have difference of opinions and you can work through it, but we got to stop demonizing one another.
Yeah. Thank you, Congressman.
Molly?
I'm spending a lot of time thinking about the fact that the House is likely leaning Republican, and how like 60% of Americans today have a Republican on the ballot that has denied that the election of President Biden happened for real. And I'm curious how we bridge bridges if we don't first accept that an election actually happened, transpired, and occurred, and it was real. And I'm curious, I know you have accepted it with some reservations, and I'm curious how you move forward into a space of creating policy with colleagues who flat deny an election took place. And I'd be curious about where you're at on that.
I hope everyone accepts the election results tonight. I mean, it was a huge night for the Republican, right? Let's start there. It's a huge night for the Republican Party. And there's a reason. I mean, the Republican Party ran on what? The economy, which is in the tank right now, on safety, which is many places feel unsafe, on the border is unsafe for a lot of different areas. I mean, energy, we're seeing the price at the pump. And what did the American people do? The American public responded in that manner. Now, I look at it this way. Now's not the time to gloat or run up the score or spike the ball. That's not what we do. We need to come together, right? And we need to govern in a fashion. I spent 20 years in the military. I have fought our nation's wolves abroad, 5 years in Iraq and Afghanistan. Another country, China, Russia, will never defeat America. What will defeat America is if we are defeated from the inside out. That's what I worry about. Our institutions eroding. So what does that mean? That means we have to accept the elections tonight. We got to make sure that, hey, look, there may have been some issues, but let's start there. And how do we build these bridges back up and ultimately deliver for the American people? Because that's where people are hurting. And they said it tonight. Tonight, they want to change. They want to change, at least in the House, and I look forward to being in the majority. I also say, look, there's a lot of new members, new energy, new ideas. I never served in public office before I retired from the Navy. Now, I look forward to my second term here, but I think this is an important aspect as well. Things don't always have to be the way they've always been. The brightest days of America are ahead of us.
Sir, we certainly do appreciate your calls for civility, but with all due respect, it is a lot easier to say, yes, accept the results of the election when I win, right?
Hey, I accepted Joe Biden lost. I mean, he won. I accepted Joe Biden won. I also accepted he's the worst president we've had in my lifetime. But that doesn't matter. How do we move forward and deliver?
Absolutely. Tony, I appreciate your time. I'm with you on the dialogue. Let's keep talking, even if we're not agreeing. As long as we're talking, yes, that's a step forward. So I appreciate your time tonight, and congratulations.
Yes, Congressman, congratulations.
Thank you. And don't steal my Spurs. We have to keep the Spurs in San Antonio.
Okay, I think that's something all of us
we'll
can
have
agree.
you on just to talk about that.
Yeah.
All right, Congressman.
Tony, I know you need to get back to your party. Thank you for your time, Congressman.
All right, thank you.
All right.
And Uvalde has played such a big role tonight in the elections, and that's why we want to go to our colleague, Lee Waldman, who has been in Uvalde speaking with voters there and also the parents of some of those who have lost their children in the tragedy.
Right, and one of them who actually put his name in the hat to run tonight. I know Lee is at one of those parties where they're watching the election results. Lee Waldman joins us live now from Uvalde. Lee.
Yeah, so we're at Javier Casares' watch party this evening, and all of the Robb families are here with you, showing their support. You've always said that you are a parent first, not a politician. So the first time on election night running as a politician, how are you feeling tonight?
Not nervous at all. I'm hoping for the best, and that's what we're here for. No worries at all.
You know, you have an army of supporters here. You have all the families of the 21 behind you here showing you that they love you, they support you no matter which way this goes tonight. What does that mean for you as a dad?
Win or lose, I've said it before, I'm in this fight for the long haul. Whoever wins, great. I'll be supportive of their win, and whatever I can do to help, I'll do that. This is important to all of us. We want change, and that's what, again, win or lose, whoever wins, again, it's, I'm sorry.
You just want that person to have a voice for the Robb families.
And again, I'm going to help out in whichever way I can.
Something you had told me before is you promised Jackie on May 24th that you were going to fight for her, for her classmates, for all of her friends. Do you think that's something she's smiling down on you for tonight?
Oh, for sure. I'm sure she's proud.
You also had your daughter Jasmine up here singing earlier and just showing you just the strong woman that you raised.
Yes, she's awesome. Everybody here that's, showing the support is awesome, and I love them all. And it's been a great night so far. Again, we're hoping for the best tonight, and that's all we can do is hope.
And for the person who walks away with this seat, we know it's going to be a long night because they have to hand count all of those write-in ballots. We've been told by the Uvalde County Elections Office that there's a lot of write-in ballots for this race in particular. What are you hoping the person who runs away with this race, who wins this seat, is going to do for you and the rest of the Robb families in creating that change that you promised Jackie?
I hope that they do. Again, whatever help they need from me and my family, I will help as much as I can. I just want them to do the right thing. Uvalde has been stagnant for a long time. Win or lose, I hope this person does the best for our community.
Thank you so much, Javier, for spending some time with us this evening. You can see there's a lot of people here at this bar and grill here in downtown Uvalde. A lot of people eagerly awaiting these results as they come in. Like I had said, we spoke with the Uvalde County Elections Office earlier this evening, and they said at this point they have to hand count all of those write-in ballots, and they tell me there was quite a few of them. So we're going to be staying here with Javier, the rest of the 21 Robb Elementary victims' families, as they await some of those results, and they watch this race and all of the other races, especially that governor's race, very, very closely. We're going to send things back to you all in San Antonio.
Lee Waldman joining us live in Uvalde. Thank you so much for that. And I'm just going to take a moment to update us on some of the national races that are taking place. 2 Senate races that we're watching very, very closely. One is the Pennsylvania race, and that is between John Fetterman and Dr. Mehmet Oz. And Fetterman, it's showing here 53% support compared with Dr. Oz, 44%. So he's 9 points ahead of the Democrat in that race, Fetterman, 9 points ahead of Dr. Oz right now with 31% of precincts there in Pennsylvania reporting. Okay, and now we're going to go to the Georgia race. This one is getting very, very tight. Okay, so we have Raphael Warnock, who is the Democrat in this race, and then we have Herschel Walker, the Republican. Right now, Herschel Walker leading by 1 point, exactly 1 point. Walker with 49.6% compared with Warnock's 48.6%. Lots of people said that was the race to watch during this election, and it seems like that's definitely the case.
Yeah, well, I'm a little surprised. I'm actually not surprised that that race is so close. I'm surprised that Fetterman Oz isn't closer.
Yeah. I expected both those races to look like the one in Georgia.
I expected both those races to be close. Yeah. But, I mean, again, there's a lot. It's only 31% reporting in Pennsylvania. But
yeah, and who knows what places they've counted so far. Right. Definitely Philly and Pittsburgh come in first, and those are usually blue.
Great. To your point, that one's continued to tighten up.
Yes.
So as those rural counties come in, you'll probably see the same thing that's happening in Georgia. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, those are exciting races, and so it'd be interesting to see just from a geek standpoint.
Well, that's what we all are here.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah.
What sort of turnout they've had in those states, percentage-wise, compared to the turnout we've had here, percentage-wise.
Well, that's something that I wanted to ask you. Is there a particular race that you're looking at? It doesn't have to be here in Texas, but somewhere in the U.S. tonight that you think is a bellwether for what we're seeing here?
Wow.
Although Texas is pretty unique, right?
Yeah.
Texas is kind of an island all on its own.
Yes, it is.
I mean, Georgia thinks it's unique, and Pennsylvania, but Texas is a weird one.
Well, Bear County, we think we're unique and different. And
yeah,
so
we're all,
I'm a little. I want to go through some of the numbers if we can for the. We haven't looked at the governor's race in a while, or the lieutenant governor, or things like that. This is the latest on the DA's race, still 57-43, still in early voting. If we can go to some of the state races. This is the Attorney General for Texas. Still only 8% reporting, but Ken Paxton widening the lead to 53% to 44%.
And we have this race. All right, this is the gubernatorial race right now. We have a 10-point spread right now with Greg Abbott taking the lead there, 54% support compared with Beto O'Rourke's 44% support, and that's 29% reporting there. And there was, I think, who said here that it was going to be single digits or double digits?
He said double.
I said double.
We both said closer. He actually said single digits.
I said
just
12.
Okay, but you can't pat yourself on the back just
I
yet,
know,
right? Because we're not done counting.
He was like, see.
I don't think
we don't know.
Knowing DeMonte, he's not going to pat himself on the back over that one. All right, Lieutenant Governor race for the state of Texas, Dan Patrick, the incumbent, 53%. Mike Collier at 44%. This I found interesting. Again, it's only 8% reporting, but I found this race interesting because for the first time, Dan Patrick attacked one of his opponents. I mean, Collier ran against him 4 years ago, but he didn't name him by name and go after him. He kind of did this time. I kind of thought that maybe was a sign that maybe he's a little more nervous than he had been in the past.
Those are insecurities coming out, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's when you push that break glass button, that means that you're looking at some numbers that you don't like.
Yeah, right.
And the team or your campaign team is saying, hey, giving you options on what you could do to break into that, and they felt like maybe they were being a little too nice. And that's what happens.
Yeah.
I know we're only at 8%. So 2018, it was 51-46.
Yeah, it was
right?
close.
So it's
Yeah.
close. So I'm assuming, to Devontae's point, like, oh, they saw something, and we're like, okay, we should probably figure that out. Yeah.
Well, did they see Kansas and what happened there?
Yeah.
Is that what spooked some Republicans?
No, I think so. I mean, you know, having recently been in the game,
yeah.
You know, I could feel that pressure, and I think they're feeling it up at the top. You know, as governor and lieutenant governor, and you know, everybody in my party has patted themselves on the back since 1994 because there has not been a statewide race won by a Democrat, and you know, hey, complacency, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
They needed to step up their game.
And I think you're seeing that flip, right? Bexar County, you see it the other way. Now statewide, you see it the opposite way. But I think when you look year over year, you see it like an incremental, closer and closer. But is that 10 years out? Is that 15?
You know, I have always said that if you want a future forecast of what Texas looks like, look at Bexar County. If you want a future forecast of what the U.S. might look like, look at Texas.
Yeah.
And so to your point, I think you're saying that.
See, that's an interesting point too, because let's just knock down state boundaries for just a second. Yeah. Let's take that all. Is this really still about, you know, in 2016 we talked about, okay, this is really city versus country, rural areas versus cities. Is that what we're still looking at here?
When you get down into county spaces, yeah, like, right, you're looking at urban versus rural. You're starting to see, that's why, I mean, they call it the blue spine of Texas, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all the spots where it's starting to percolate. It's also where people are moving, to be fair, right? So what you're seeing is as the state is growing and as they're moving in, I think you are starting to see, we talked earlier about digital divide. That's another piece as well, right? We know that rural areas do not have access to internet and digital access as well as our urban cities. So I think what you're starting to see is, yes, this sort of like pit against small to small, person to person, and when we start to move up, we start to see it's really a breaking of a system.
And I honestly think that, unfortunately, I think we've gotten away from people really doing research on who candidates are.
Yeah, right.
Because I mean, if you look at the Attorney General's race, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
Any average person would not win.
Yeah. If you covered up the names in the party and you said who,
you look at, you know, everybody's looking at the R and the D, right? And if you can count, if there's more D's than R's, and you can get them out, that's what's happening. There's a loyalty movement going on, and it doesn't matter what you did or who you killed or who you know, what resume you have. No one is looking at that. They're thinking, okay, that's my people. He's bad, but he's our bad.
Yeah.
And we're going to roll with that. And I think that's what we're seeing across the country. I mean, now I don't think Democrats help themselves, because Joe Biden out the gate had some issues with the war with transitioning the soldiers back home.
Yeah.
There's a lot of mishaps, and going into, you know, anybody that has a bad economy, no matter, what do they say, extreme, forget it. Anyway, it's a book. It's called Extreme Ownership.
Yeah.
No matter whose fault it is, if you're the leader,
Falls on you.
It falls on you.
Yeah.
You take ownership of that.
I think we're going to wrap this up here in a little bit, but I want to go through the local numbers again while we can. Just what the county judge race. Oh, here we have U.S. Rep Joaquin Castro. I'm glad to see that we didn't congratulate him prematurely. He wins 70 to 30 in District 20.
That's an 80-20.
But here's the thing, while we go over the races also, we just want you to also take a look at the top right corner right there so that we can see where we're getting the numbers from, because that's also going to affect what we're talking about
This
here.
is state rep. This was Lyle Larson's old spot. Not a big surprise here that Mark DeRazio is winning in that race. As we go on to the next race that we have, let's just keep going through them, guys.
I want to see Allison's race.
Oh, yeah.
Precinct 3, 5347. Again, still early voting. Do we have any idea who turned out today? Was it Republican, Democrat?
I have not heard.
I mean, people are probably still in line, could conceivably still be in line to vote.
All right, so now this just moved 2 points.
Right,
2
Beto,
points right now.
53-45 now, 17% reporting. Do you expect this to get tighter before the night, as the night goes on?
I'm surprised it went back the other way.
Well, he doesn't, but I do.
Okay.
Okay.
And this is Henry Cuellar and Cassie Garcia early voting. We have more votes than we did before, 59-41. I would expect this race to also tighten as the night goes on.
Yeah. But
a lot of money spent on this race.
Not a lot.
It was a lot. But I don't think it tightens up.
No surprise, Diego Bernal wins back as state rep in District 123.
Do we have any more numbers here? Okay.
Do we have the 121 race?
Here we go. County judge race, 59%, 38%. Peter Sakai, Trish DeBerry has already conceded. Sakai has given a victory speech, so.
I mean, there's a slight sadness, right, that there are still folks at UTSA standing in line waiting to go, and
you could make the argument that some people feel discouraged once a race has already been called and they're still standing in line.
I've had that argument in my head that, should you release early vote at 7 or should you wait till everybody's voted? Because do you have some sort of influence?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I mean, I'm disappointed that there are folks at UTSA. I would assume UTSA, we're looking at college students are likely going governor rather than maybe county judge, and still.
So, and they're looking at the numbers going,
well,
it's
that
not
one's
done
called,
yet.
right.
But I also think that, you remember Beto was there, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
But I also think that for young folks, it's more about my voice counting, right?
Yeah.
Whether we win or lose, like my voice.
Anything on Steve Allison's race, because that one was going to be a lot closer than DeRazio's race.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think so.
Which race do you think is going to keep us up?
So I think Precinct 3 County Commissioner is going to keep you up. It'll be real interesting to see when Bexar County releases the first boxes. Okay.
Yeah.
And which way that goes. And Grant needs to keep his fingers crossed that it goes his way, because if it starts to trend the other way, he could be in real danger.
Yeah. All right. I want you guys to just kind of sum up your thoughts on the night and what we've seen. If there's one race that caught your attention, or what are we seeing in tonight's election?
We'll start with you, DeMonte.
I think we're seeing what we always see. The ones who should win are winning. I am disappointed in the Raphael Warnock Walker race. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing?
By the way, if you're just joining us, it's 1 point behind right now, and
I mean,
Herschel Walker's 1 point ahead.
And we talked about messaging, right? We talked about are you really reaching those voters? And that's to my point earlier, is that people are not really looking deep into who these candidates are. Are you wearing an R or are you wearing a D? And it's unfortunate. But also, I think, to a point I made, the person at the top has to take some ownership in the losses and everything that didn't go well this election cycle. And that's just where I'll leave it.
Yeah.
Molly?
Yeah, it's going to be a long night, I think, for everyone. I think we're going to see things trickling in. It's just the nature of where we are now, right? That voting is taking longer. People are showing up on election day, which means we're going to see it. So it doesn't mean anything until we start to see those numbers coming in to start looking at trends. I will say that there were some firsts tonight that are exciting, right? We had Wes Morris, Maryland's first black governor. Maura Healey is the first openly lesbian woman elected governor in Massachusetts. So those are some big, interesting spaces of like first that get me excited about what we're doing. And yeah, I think sitting around and waiting, like I think tomorrow morning we'll start to get some better numbers. But this will be one of those like refresh all night kind of days.
Yeah.
Kevin.
So I'll keep it local. If you're a Republican, as I am in Bexar County, don't be thinking about running countywide anytime soon. It doesn't look good.
He's like, join panels. Join
panels. These are much easier.
Yes. Especially if they're called power panels.
Exactly.
You just have to wear a hat.
That's it. Yeah. And I will say it has been a great pleasure of mine, thanks to both of you and you too, to be here on the night when the Wolffs vacate the county.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I mean, your thoughts as your dad, this is it. I mean, he's riding off into the sunset.
I have a really hard time believing it, because you got to think about this. I'm 57. I was 5 years old when he was first elected to office.
Wow.
So, I've been this my whole life, and so it's difficult for me as his child, his son, to say, okay, really, this is the end, right?
Right. He did say he's not going anywhere.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, you've heard me say this, DeMonte. It was great to be out of politics, glad to be out of office. Blah 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 blah. But it's kind of like the mafia. Once you're in, you can't get out. You get sucked back in.
But isn't it a lot more fun to be a spectator?
It is so much more fun to be a spectator than a participant.
That was bad. I like that.
Yes.
And not worry about it. Yeah.
I only imagine family dinners are now going to be like, but was my food better or was his food
That's
better?
it.
Like, it'll be a different.
We'll find something to argue
Let's
about.
take a vote.
A different type of election.
Yeah. Kevin, Molly, DeMonte, thank you for, again, stepping up and being part of our power panel.
Absolutely.
Love it.
It's an honor being here, man. Thank you.
We so appreciate your insights. Thank you so much for that. And to all of you who joined us home, yes, this was hopefully you have lots of snacks to keep you up for the night because it is going to be a long night. We still don't know who our governor is. We do know who our county judge is going to be. That's been called for Democrat Peter Sakai. We also know that Tony Gonzales and Joaquin Castro, both incumbents, have won their races for the House, but there's still a lot of races that are still going on.
Yeah, and we have all that, of course, covered on KSAT.com. And for the insiders, KSAT insiders that were watching at a watch party tonight, thank you for playing a part in this process as well. Of course, we will continue this on air. ABC has national coverage, and of course, we'll have all the local results right up to the minute coming up on the Night Beat tonight on KSAT. Until then, have a great night.
Good night.